Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Hello, all. A very good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking time out and being here today. This is Kirti Aluru, IIT BHU 2016 mining graduate, and will take you through today's program. Association of IIT BHF Global and National Alumni, along with Entrepreneurship Cell, presents this web summit on future of environment as part of the Future series, sponsored by Platinum sponsor Red Game. So here is a saying, major problems in the world are the result of differences between how nature works and the way man thinks. So coming to these problems, do you know that as per World Economic Forum, cost of environmental degradation in India is estimated at $80 billion a year, and the health cost alone are estimated at $6 to $7 billion a year. Environmental degradation combined with impact of COVID-19 poses one of the biggest threats to sustainable development in India, and it is high time to realize that there is no silver bullet to solve these problems, and instead it will be a range of steps to deal with different sources. Our main aim today is to build awareness and create a call for action on major issues and suggest opportunities along with solutions for collaboration, as well as highlight areas of research and innovation to solve this complex issue. Going forward, we will create a forum for environment by collaborating with giants across the globe, which focuses on major pain points and adoption of certain regions to work on clean air and clean water campaigns, such as campaigns to clean Asigart with collaboration of students, measurement of air pollution in your local regions, etc. Today's summit has four major sessions: Future Ventures, Future Speak, Future Note, and Future Technologies, along with fun quiz breaks. I'm excited to hear from global thought leaders, CEOs, startups, and our distinguished alumni. I hope you are too. So, as part of our ritual, let's start the summit with Kulgeet, which is a tribute of love to the founder of BHF, Pandit Madan Mohan Malavya. Yash or Vishaka, please play Kulgeet.
मधुर मनोहर अतीव सुंदर ये सर्ववेद्या की राजधानी मधुर मनोहर अतीव सुंदर ये सर्ववेद्या की राजधानी ये तीनों लोकों से न्यारी काशी सुज्ञान धर्म और सत्य राशि बसी है गंगा के रम्य तट पर ये सर्ववेद्या की राजधानी मधुर मनोहर अतीव सुंदर ये सर्ववेद्या की राजधानी नहीं है ये ईट पत्थर है विश्वकर्मा का कार्य सुंदर रचे है विद्या के भव्य मंदिर ये सर्व सृष्टि की राजधानी मधुर मनोहर अतीव सुंदर ये सर्ववेद्या की राजधानी ये मालवीय
It's a really beautiful rendition, Vishaka. Very glad to hear you. Thank you so much. So let's start our first event, Future Ventures, which aims to give the early stage startups a platform to showcase their concept. This session is moderated by Mr. Vaibhav Dayal, alumnus of 1990 batch Electrical Engineering IIT BHU, as well as an alumnus of IIM Ahmedabad. He is a management consultant working with companies in areas of scaling up, turnaround, and pre-funding structuring. Till recently, he was the Chief Strategy Officer of Patanjali. Over to you, Mr. Weber.
Thank you, Kirti, and very nice to be here this morning. Welcome, everybody. Welcome once again to the start of this brilliant day ahead. So our first section is the future trailblazers, right? This term is, of course, self-explanatory. The trailblazers are, it said that today's trailblazers are tomorrow's torchbearers. So you got to pick the trailblazers correctly because they got to light up the world tomorrow, not torch it. While you'll see that we have picked the really finest, some of the fine talent coming out of our own alumni and doing wonderful things in the world. Okay, so without much ado, let me introduce the first trailblazer of today. That is Abhilasha Parwar. Abhilasha, hi, good morning there.
Hi.
Good morning. So let me introduce Abhilasha briefly, and then the panel will come in to talk to Abhilasha. So Abhilasha is doing her own venture called Blue Sky Analytics. She is a 2012 batch, dual degree applied chemistry. Well, after the rigor of IIT BHU, instead of picking up a job in a large company, which she did actually, but sooner than she picked, she actually chucked that to work in a think tank. In a think tank which is tasked with the thing of reducing poverty in the world, called Abdul Latif Jameel Poverty Action Lab. She spent a time there before she moved on to Yale as a Fulbright scholar. And after Fulbright scholarship at Yale, doing her stint there, she came back, and for the last 2 years, she has been running her own startup, Blue Sky Analytics. Not to forget, she's also a certified yoga instructor. She will be talked to by our brilliant student, Ishita Sharma. She is second year electrical engineering, and her mentor and senior alum, Astha Sharma. Astha is 2006 pass out of IIT BHU and also subsequently from IIM Lucknow. And after working in corporates for a couple of years, she has been an entrepreneur for the last 6 years. Over to you, Abhilasha, Ishita, and Astha.
Thank you, Vaibhav sir. So welcome, Abhilasha, a trailblazer. So we would like to know, the climate is not a topic where many young entrepreneurs are working. So we would like to know from you what inspired you to work in this, pick this up. What is the problem at large that you're solving and your vision behind it?
So I think the first statement is a little flawed that climate is actually now a sector which a lot of entrepreneurs globally are looking at, including like global venture funds and large growth equity funds. So climate tech, I think for 2020 was one of the fastest growing segments. We were the first climate tech investment in India in 2020, but like subsequently just 2 months later, one of our fellow companies from the network just raised a seed round as well, and they have been growing with a viral speed. The problem, I think, all the climate tech entrepreneurs are solving is that of simply existence, which is quite funny because, as you mentioned, like it feels almost that lay person does not understand how critical the situation globally or at a planetary scale is, and everyone is completely comfortable with the fact that we are going to live for next God knows how many years, and our families and children will thrive, which simply is not the fact. Like data simply does not point to that. And that is a number like we have recently crossed, I think, 415 parts per million of CO2. And in the last 800,000 years of our planet's existence, we haven't crossed 300 ppm. So from 300 to 418, that's a very sizable number. And that should, you're asking me the question, why am I doing a climate tech venture? I ask everybody else, why are you not doing anything related to climate change? Because I think survival or simply existence of our race and ourselves is the primary goal.
Yes. So I think Ishita will go next.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, as you all know, you have collaborated with various labs and colleges across the globe, including MIT and Stanford. So, could you tell us about how you were able to collaborate and get this global platform and support?
So I think I have always focused on collaborating with people and choosing people over a brand name or whatever it is. My first job, as Vaibhav had mentioned, I had multiple options, and I picked up my manager, who was a Columbia and Stanford alum, who actually now is head of product in Blue Sky. So it's always been a people-based decision, and I think we are collaborating with MIT because we have a lot of like people who we work with there. Um, and then Stanford Angels is one of the investors in Blue Sky. Hence, we have collaborated with them. Also, they're really close. So MIT and Harvard are just 2 hours from Yale, where I was for 2 years. So I think it's just like vicinity.
Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, as somebody in a field like yours, as an entrepreneur, would you emphasize more on deepening customer relationships or expanding your customer base?
So this question typically goes well for B2C startup, while we are B2B startup. And for a B2C startup, I think you can't really answer. I don't think there is a silver bullet answer to it. The first one would be customer retention, and the second one would be like traction. I think sometimes metrics change on a month-on-month or quarter-on-quarter basis. Some quarters you're like, for the last 1 year, our focus has been product development and more focus on building relations with the potential customers and partners. Maybe in Q3 of 2021, our focus will be completely on traction and customer acquisition. So yeah, the whether a company is focusing on retention versus traction, it could be a function of simply the time journey of the company.
Yes, ma'am.
So, Abhilasha, one more thing, we would like to little bit know more about your work. So, I think you're working on pollution. You also picked up forest fire data. So, just talk a little more about what all parameters on the climate aspect you're working on.
So our goal is actually to almost become like Bloomberg for environmental data, and within that realm, we are not like super picky. We look at what the opportunities are, and if the opportunity lies in water or in forest fires or in air pollution, we go for them. We started with air pollution because it was a much simpler parameter to analyze, and then I think we were based in Gurgaon, and you can see a lot of pollution in Gurgaon. Actually, just outside the window, it's super foggy and it's pretty terrible. Hence, we started with that. We then progressed to forest fires, which was the outcome of crop fires, which happen in Punjab, which are like one of the factors for such higher pollution. But then now we are working on urban informatics, which is like seeing how cities grow, and then on a lot of water quality, water quantity, flood risk, drought risk, glacial melt. So our niche as a company is actually to analyze satellite data, and within that realm of satellite data, whatever information we can extract out from it, we work on that. The main USP that we have is that we've built a technology platform literally from code base up. So a lot of times people, especially juniors, apply for data analytics job while they do not know coding, and they have done some data analytics in like R or Stata or whatever. That's not what we do. We analyze satellite data and other answers. We analyzed 24 terabytes of data last month. So you can understand the volume of the data that we analyze and the whole cloud and everything, the technologies we use. And from those input data parameters, whatever relevant for the market, we're able to extract out, we do that. Our goal is to sort of provide a complete picture of the planet. We call it a digital twin of the planet. So at a pixel by pixel level, you get a full information stack, just like you will get for a human being or for a financial or transaction, like a bank transaction information. And then we sell those data sets to a variety of customers.
In fact, this is a very nice idea, the twin picture of the planet, digital twin of the planet, because yes, you're right. The entire planet is being impacted by this. And so some more bit on your future plans before we close it. We have a little time, I know.
So we are actually expanding out now. We are expanding into the US and Netherlands. I'm just trying to book my tickets and get out. We are also out for raising Series A, about, let's say, hopefully $10-12 million. That'll be great. We're already a 25 people team spread across the world now. So I think like a lot of future plan, 2021 is a pretty critical year. We are trying to like really get to a place as a global player. I think we have got reasonable recognition in the past 2 years and have built the product to a pretty great extent. But then we really want to showcase extremely highly technical and very high quality technology and data product out of India, but then for the global market. So that's one of the goals.
No, that's awesome that you are
Great.
working. Yeah. So over to you, sir.
Great. If I may add a closing question, which I'm sure a lot of our audience would be interested in. What is your revenue model, Abhilasha?
We sell data as a service. So like we have a lot of data APIs. And for instance, if let's say a BHU student wants to work with some water quality data or something, for them, it's going to be either free or 70% like discount or something. A lot of nonprofits and think tanks, we give data for high discount, but for companies like in insurance sector, or if you're a phone company or you're a fitness band and you want to display air quality or water quality or whatever onto your phone, or you're a financial company and want to use information of carbon emissions of a power plant for investment decisions, and you got to really pay a big buck. That's
quite a large addressable universe, I would say. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was great having you. Great job, Astha and Ikshita. Wonderful. So we move on to our next trailblazer and our very relatively fresher alum, Vishal Kumar, his name is, and he's a 2016 batch, not even 5 years. He is doing great things about cleaning the world. So Vishal is a 2016 batch. He did his dual degree in material science and technology, and he is, he is working in a venture called Waste Warriors, which is about reducing plastic waste in eco-sensitive areas like mountains, etc. All 5 years, Vishal has been into the same field. So he has cleaned up a lot of plastics, and for the plastic in the world, he's your number one enemy. Last job, he was the general manager of, again, something called Renew Oceans, which is renewing plastic waste, cleaning up the oceans. So mountains, oceans, everything is covered. Great. Vishal, welcome. How are you there today?
Hi, good morning, Vaibhav. I'm good.
Good morning. Good morning.
Thanks for
Great,
the introduction.
great.
Like we've not even done a small tiny fraction of addressing the problem. It's a huge.
Wonderful. Let me get your panel on to you. So that's Bhavish. Bhavish is a second-year mechanical student, young and bright, and Jay Prakash. Jay is 2013 alum, and he has just completed his PhD in cybersecurity from Singapore, and has started a venture in cybersecurity itself. He is based in Singapore. Jay and Bhavish, over to you.
Hi. Sorry. Probably I think there's a mismatch.
Sorry?
Yeah. Vaibhav, I think there is
I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. Okay. You can't really delete anything. So let me just rewrite it. It is, the panelist in this case is Vaibhav Saxena and Srishti Bansal. How did that happen? Oh, it was my sheet, it is wrong. Okay.
Yeah, hello.
So Srishti is a second-year chemical student, and Vaibhav Saxena is our LM 2009 batch. And he has been into a startup for a long time. I've known Vaibhav for many years, and he's running his startup called Ipsator Analytics, doing wonderful work with railways. So every time you buy tickets, you order a meal on railway, something Vaibhav is doing in the background, which makes things happen. Over to you, Vaibhav and Srishti.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. It would be a little confusing because there are 3 Vaibhavs in the audience today. So I'm fine with that. So yeah, Vishal, so excited to have you with us, especially in this contemporary world. And, it was really amazing to know that you are doing your own bit to fight plastic as a menace and save the planet. So Srishti and we all have been thinking of really, really, interesting things that we can ask you and share with the audience today. So over to you, Srishti.
So, hi Vish. It's so nice of you to take your valuable time from your busy schedule. We are extremely delighted to have you here with us. So, first of all, I would like to welcome you. And now, starting with, Actually, I wanted to ask you, like, what motivated you to move towards the social impact sector? Like, most graduates prefer corporate, civil services, or startups. Like, what actually was the motivating factor?
Yeah, I mean, this is a question I get asked often. So I think the answer begins with Banaras. While traveling from Chennai, so my hometown is Chennai. So while traveling from Chennai to Varanasi, it was a 40-hour train journey, and taking it multiple times a year. I would just be sitting next to the door, looking outside nature, like, just so beautiful, changing nature, with changing landscapes throughout, like as you move from south to north. But one thing that never changed was when you put your head down, when you just look down, you could see a continuous, never ending trail of plastic. And it just bogged my mind. I was like, whoa, what's happening? Like, why is there so much trash everywhere? And then went to BHU, and, if you've seen outside our hostels, there are just mountains of trash outside each of our hostels because we didn't have, a proper solid waste management system. And just these thoughts, like had a deep impact on me. And then I was always thinking, as a student, as a right from my second year, we started organizing cleanups in the campus, trying to organize initiatives. So we had launched the Green Club. We tried reducing food waste, reducing water consumption, a bunch of other initiatives. But then back then it was always about it's an interesting thing to do. It was something I was committed to, I was passionate about, but I never really thought about it as a career opportunity. So it was always either this or a corporate career, like you mentioned. And then things changed when I did an internship in my final year at Sahas Zero Waste. When I realized that it didn't have to be, following your passion or, making a career. Like it could be an and in between. And that's when I ended up, realizing that you could make a career in the social impact development sector space.
So that's a very nice thought. And I wanted to ask, like, were your parents supportive? Like, if not that, like, how did you convince them?
Yeah, that's the $1 billion question.
Yeah, because
They're sitting right outside, and they don't want me to answer that question. But yeah, I mean, no, this was not a popular decision. I come from a very conservative family, so rejecting the corporate job that I got from campus and taking a job with like less than 60%, taking a 60-70% pay cut, and to take a social sector's job was not a popular decision. And it's something that's it was just something I had to do because I believed in it and I believed in myself, and I think it was the right decision to take at that point of time.
actually that's very important to believe in yourself. So now talking about the waste warriors, I wanted to ask, like, what does your organization do and how is your organization solving the problem actually? Like, could you like elaborate?
Yeah, sure. So we have, a few different core models. One of the models that we have is, developing model wards and model villages. So we're trying to create these entire holistic end-to-end waste management systems for one municipal ward in Dehradun and in Dharamshala. So we work mostly in eco-sensitive areas, which is most of Uttarakhand and Himachal is eco-sensitive. So, we do cleanups in the Triund base camp, very regular cleanups where we get a lot of volunteers, get people, trekkers and volunteers, locals to realize first that there's a problem. I think the first step towards solving the problem is getting people to realize that there is a problem. So, our cleanups and all our efforts around community engagement are focused towards getting people to realize there's a problem that we need to address. And as a part of solution, we design model wards and model villages, like I said. So we offer end-to-end waste management services from collection, source segregation, getting people to segregate waste at source into wet, dry, and domestic hazardous. And then we collect that in a segregated way and we process it downstream and send it to different recyclers, who can recycle specific streams of waste. We set up the first material recovery facility for the state of Uttarakhand last year. And it's something that we want to build further in these regions because there's a serious lack of infrastructure. So focusing on infrastructure, focusing on community engagement and behavior change, these are the few different models that we have. And we also have, in addition, a school program where we train teachers and train students on solid waste management. So there's a bunch of, these different things that we do.
Okay, so like as you described, so there must be so many challenges that you face. So I wanted to talk about, like, what are the challenges faced by your team on a daily basis?
Yeah, that's it's a huge answer that can keep going, but in the interest of time, I just talk about one or 2 points. The biggest is the fact that people are not sensitive to the waste that that they generate. It's somebody else's problem. Just as long as my house is clean, I don't care what happens to it outside. So that first mental block, I think that's the biggest hurdle. And as a result of that, what's happening is people are not willing to pay the user fees that is required to pay for proper managing of waste. So that's a really big component. For example, we work in villages where the cost for us to offer services is 300 rupees per household per month, which is 10 rupees a day. But the villagers are not willing to pay even 30 rupees per household per month, right? Which is 1 rupee per day. They're not willing to pay that much amount. So how can we offer waste management services when people are not willing to pay? And this is not just a village problem. Even in urban areas, even in metro cities, people are not willing to pay the true cost of waste management.
Okay. So, is there any message that you would like to give to our enthusiastic juniors about how to contribute to this initiative?
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of ways you could contribute, but I think the larger answer I would like to share with everybody is, to look at the data, to look at, like how Abhilasha said, once you start looking at the data of, water pollution, air pollution, waste management, climate change, there's just no dearth of, like health, poverty. Just start looking at these problems, look at the data, and it's going to affect you. You're not going to be able to go to sleep at peace, and then you would want to solve the problem. And what I want to share is you can solve a problem you're committed about and build a career in it, because there is a lot of funding available now for addressing these kind of issues. So go out there, find your problem, find your cause, solve it, and you have this entire network of people who are willing to help you.
All right. So to have a great kickstart, so internships are very important part. So can you just tell that how can the students, the juniors, can get internships and jobs in the social impact area?
Absolutely. I think you need to be committed. I won't take names, but there were a couple of students who had applied for internship to me on LinkedIn, and then I just gave them a small assignment, like, okay, just why don't you answer these couple of questions on why you want to intern with us? And I haven't got a response till date. So I think what's required is, you have this forum right now where you can reach out to for internships, and to be committed towards any particular cause, whatever it is. Find your calling, and there are no dearth of startups, no dearth of organizations that you can reach out to. I'm always available. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. I can connect you to a bunch of organizations who are looking for committed interns. So yeah, I think it's a good time for anybody to intern. In fact, I decided my career based on my internship. So I think internships are really critical, and I would encourage everybody to use their time in doing good internships.
Okay.
That is very fantastic, Vishal. Here is someone who actually used the internship in the right way. That's so nice to know.
Yeah.
So,
I guess,
yeah.
Go on, Shrishti.
Okay. So, Wish, I have these 3 follow-up questions. What are the places to look for the opportunities, and how did you come to know about Waste Warriors? And which is a good way to find other such organizations?
Okay, so there are a few different groups. You can make note of them, or I can send them to you separately. Social Enterprise Jobs is a Google group. You have the Network Capital on Facebook. You have a bunch of different WhatsApp groups where people are sharing, the development sector related opportunities. So once you are in the network, Jagriti Yatra, which is a huge network of people across the country, working towards solving various environmental and social issues. So once you are within those networks, there's, you keep getting those circulation of messages and emails. So follow these WhatsApp groups, follow these, social, like Facebook and LinkedIn groups. I think there's definitely a lot out there already.
So that is very nice, Vishal. And I'm sure you will be guiding our juniors and everybody who is interested to work and contribute to this area. That was a fantastic session, Shrishti and Vishal. And thanks to IIBA team for enabling this. Over to you, Vaibhav Dayal sir.
Thank you. Vishal. Thank you once again, and great job, Vaibhav and Srishti. Wonderful. So we move on to our third trailblazer of today. Okay, another woman, Pratha Jhawar. So Pratha is 2010 batch. Okay, and I don't know what's happening these days. In other times, we used to get out of the college and jump into companies to make money. But today, these young young guys, they're going to want to work for think tanks, for policy advocacy, and things like that, which हमें तो समय से उतना समझ में भी नहीं आता था. But anyways, Pratha is one of those geniuses who understands that. So let me. Pratha is 2010 batch electronics engineering, and after that she joined BHU and worked there for 4 years. It must have been a pretty secure job, but she chucked the security of it, and went to do her master's in environment technology from Imperial College on a Shevning scholarship. And after that, she has come back to India, and she has been working with Center for Science and Environment, which is a very premier organization working in the area of environment for last about 2 years, I think, Pratha. So,
Yes.
Yeah, wonderful. Pratha, welcome. Let me introduce your panel to you. I think I have already introduced them once, so let me introduce them again quickly. So it's Bhavish, second year mechanical student, and Bhavish is mentored by Jay Prakash, 2013, just completed PhD in cybersecurity from Singapore and doing a venture in Singapore now in cybersecurity, based in Singapore. So over to you, Jay and Bhavish.
Thank you, Vaibhav.
Thank you, sir, for a warm introduction of our panelist. So that's a really incredible journey. So good morning, Pratha. To begin with, we are very curious about the area of your work and responsibilities as the Deputy Program Manager at the Center for Science and Environment. Please enlighten us.
So as Vaibhav has already mentioned that it's one of the premium institution in working in the field of environment, and I am with renewable energy team. And as we know that the energy is one of the major reason for pollution in the world. Energy sector contributes more than 1/3 of the pollution, and we are not anywhere close to our peak demands. By 2050, world's energy demand will be 50% more than today's, and in India, it will be double than today's demand. So what is the way forward? And that is where I'm working in, because somewhere we can't stop our growth, but at the same time, we have to think of new solutions, and renewable somewhere comes or fits in the picture. So at national level, my program, we deal with this centralized solutions, where we want India to commit to 100% renewable. I know that's quite a big thing to expect at present, but I'm sure that in some time, slowly we will be there. So, and at decentralized level, somewhere we have the solution in our hand. Every one of us can put some solar rooftop at our home, and we can have this energy readily available to it, and we can easily move from a fossil fuel base to an electric to a renewable energy. So my work there is to advocate for the policy changes to the government, that how these could be taken forward, and how the policy, because this is a very dynamic field, as you can see, and policies in India as well as in world, these are framing up with and given this COVID-19, when the things have changed so drastically, lives have changed, and we are now moving from from, let's say that we used to travel a lot, and now we are doing this online with the help of technology and electricity. So somewhere we need this push, and that's what we are trying to do here. Yes.
Great.
To
Yeah,
yes, to facilitate and advocate and make people aware.
Great. So seems you and your role is the need of the hour then. So I would like to hand over to Bhavesh. Let's see what is young curious mind is brimming with. Over to you, Bhavesh.
Thanks, Jay. Good morning, ma'am.
Hi.
Ma'am, it is usually assumed that changing one's field can be very challenging, but you made quite a transition from electronics engineering to environmental technology. What was the motivation behind it, and how easy or hard had it been?
So actually, when I was studying at BHU, one thing I was sure that I don't want to get into IT job. Rest, like I wasn't sure that where I will end up, but one thing was sure that I don't want to get there. And 2010 when I passed out, and 2009 when our placements were happening. So India was facing this, or India was seeing this after effects of 2008 recession time. With this platform, actually, I want to tell some of the graduates of 2020 and who are going to graduate this year that yes, this was one of the worst placed batch probably. And now that because of COVID, placements have also got disturbed these years. So not to lose hope, I was the one who could not get through any proper job from campus. But then BHEL happened, and that was kind of it actually gave some direction to me, to my journey. And there I knew, once I got there, I knew that yes, though we have this fossil fuel based uh, energy systems, but I want to work in renewables. And once I started to work in renewables, learning more about it, I found out that yeah, this is not just a technology, but it is also a solution to environment. So not just working on improvement of the technology, but how to improve the world with it is somewhere that was the angle I want to work on. That is why I went for environmental technology, and then I'm working on this technology as a solution for environment.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, sustainability definitely is the need of our hour, especially in a nation like India. What are the innovation opportunities on the horizon in our nation?
So that's quite an interesting question. I would say that renewable is something which is getting too much attention in government and even in public domain. I would say India is now poster boy of renewables. But and with this Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, government is giving a lot of push to manufacturing of solar cells and PV modules in India. And though there is a lot of opportunity and room for development, R&D in this field, and now we have to say many new techniques and this new systems or new ways of harnessing energy is coming up. How to commercialize them, how to make good use of them, it it will come through. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, we really appreciate the time you took from your busy schedule for our interview. Thank you so much.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Pratha. Thank you so much, Bhavish and Jay. This is really wonderful. So that concludes our Trailblazer section. So as you saw, all three very fine talents changing the world, and what I observed in all three, the common denominator, very stable head on strong shoulders, the maturity reflects. That's wonderful. All right. So gentlemen, we move on to our next section, which is a fireside chat, okay, with our distinguished alumnus, Sanjeev Malhotra, Dr. Sanjeev Malhotra. Sanjeev, good morning. Are you there? Just a second. Sanjeev is in Bay Area.
Yeah, he's on mute right
stepped out.
now. Can just send a message to him to, sort of.
I'll do that. Just a second.
Yeah, he's there. He's on. He's on, Vaibhav.
He's on? All right. Sanjeev, hi.
Hi, Vaibhav.
Hello. I would say good morning or good evening to you, actually. Yeah.
It's good morning to you.
Wonderful. So let me introduce Sanjeev to the audience first. All right. And so Sanjeev is our alumnus 1990 batch. Okay, chemical engineering, and he has always been a great guy. From BHU, he went to US. He went to University of Iowa. He did his master's, did his PhD. In between, Lawrence Berkeley Labs, and also did his MBA. So it is BS, MS, MBA, PhD. Nothing is left, Sanjeev, isn't it?
Well, there are quite a few things left, Vaibhav.
All right, we'll catch up on that. So let me complete.
We'll catch up on that, yeah.
Right. Okay. And after that, ever since right from the beginning, Sanjeev had this entrepreneurial bug, and he got into ventures rather than the large, big companies. The very first company, Edge Power, he was working there at that time, and he took that company to places, took that company to IPO. He was a key, very, very instrumental in doing that. Subsequent to that, no stopping Sanjeev, he went on to found his own venture, a company called Urja, and where he did absolutely path-breaking work in the field of fuel cells. He brought some revolutionized technology in fuel cells, which made the fuel cells much more powerful and much more compact. The company was well trusted by the investors the world over. It was invested in by Sequoia. It was invested in by 5 other funds. And Sanjeev ran that for 10 years. And, before he had a very successful exit. Subsequent to that, Sanjeev was one of the rare people who was picked up by the US government, by Obama government. And in fact, Obama and Bill Gates were instrumental themselves in picking Sanjeev to run an initiative where they wanted to identify and fund the really promising companies in the field of energy management. So for this purpose, a Center of Energy Initiatives was established in White House, and Sanjeev was picked up. He was in White House for 4 years. As the inaugural director of that. Well, that also did not stop Sanjeev, so he went beyond that. And 2 years back, he started his own fund. He has funded a couple of companies, I know, very exciting companies. Plus, he has also taken on as the CEO role in one of the most exciting ventures, which is part of this bouquet of the companies that his fund has invested in. Wow, Sanjeev, that's a very long introduction. I'm already tired. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine.
Great. Wonderful. So Sanjeev, it's been a wonderful journey. I described the part of it, but it's like reading somebody else's book. It's your own book. Tell us how has been the journey from Vishwesvaraya Hostel to Valley and wherever you are. How has it been?
Vaibhav, it has been a great journey. Met a lot of great people. No complaints. I would say quite a few falls along the way. Mm-hmm. And, we used to, it's unlike the kind of falls we used to have back in the undergrad days or in during our BTech. That mm-hmm. fall was caused by imbibing alcohol, where your friend would pick you up. These falls, when you hit life, these falls, nobody picks you up. So either you get a learning from that fall or you will keep on falling. So I would say I've had quite a few falls, but a lot of learnings along the way. So it's been a great journey so far. Yes.
Wonderful. They're very well described. So there is no hangover here. Either you hang or it's over.
It's a Saturday evening, so the Sunday morning will tell whether it's going to be a hangover or not.
Absolutely. Sanjeev, I was just thinking that during this run, and by the way, Sanjeev, your background is not on. That's all right. That's all right. I think I'm on in case, this is the fireside chat, as I said. So there's a fire in the background, or in the BHU language, as we would probably say, there's a fire in our backside. It is, the in the journey that you had, and particularly, when one is the large company, it's one thing, but when one is in a startup and he goes through something like a 9/11 or 2008 Lehman crisis, where the whole economy crashes, right? The times are much more unstable. These are typically called the death valleys in these startups, right? You wrote out a couple of these yourself, right? What was that like? Did you feel that you're dying and there is no tomorrow, or you knew that no, it's going to be over?
Look, I think first thing, Vaibhav, I don't think you should just say he, because we have a very good medley of he's and she's here of entrepreneurs. So there are a lot of she's also. So as far as my journey is concerned, and my personal experiences as an entrepreneur, I would say quite a few. Pretty much every day, daily, there is some sort of upheaval, or there's no good hair day. And looking at me, you can see that there's nothing like a good hair day in the journey of an entrepreneur. But
in your case, it's
some
all
of
good
the,
hair day.
exactly. I don't have, I leave the house with having
You don't
no
have to worry
issues
about
with
it.
that problem. Yeah. So, but there are a few, I would say, every entrepreneur has a few experiences that definitely leaves a mark on them. I mean, in my case, I think somebody was talking about the graduating class of 2008, or one of those classes. I would say 2008 was a pretty significant part of my entrepreneurial journey. Urja had started in 2006. We had raised money from Sequoia. We did our A round of raising $5 million in 2006. 6 months into that, we did our B round, where we raised, I think, about $16 million. So a total of about 20 odd million dollars we had raised. And in 2008, we were going out to raise our Series C. We got a few term sheets. We were going to raise about $40 million. We got a few term sheets, and the board decided that, if we can get all these term sheets, why don't we go ask for $80 million? I tried to convince the board that, look, this is 2008. This was, I think, around the month of July, August of 2008. The weather outside is not very conducive for, we had, the term sheets were at very good valuation. I mean, unimaginable valuation. But the board persisted. So I said, okay, fine. I went back to the investors who had given us the term sheets and said, this is what the board wants. They said, you know what, we'll just put in 40, you go raise the other 40. So I pounded the pavement, but net result, could not make it happen. I get a call from one of the key investors. Without naming names, you guys can guess who it is, because I think Vaibhav in his introduction mentioned who our key investors were. I get a call from them that, can you come meet with us? We want you to meet with the partners. So I ended up at their office in Palo Alto. And I'll tell you, Vaibhav, that experience, I would say I would have been a better off person if I was thrown into a cage of lions in a zoo. About an hour of meeting, and I came out and I was thinking, what the hell happened? And they basically told me, they said, we'll be in touch with you. So I was driving across from our manufacturing facility, our tech center, everything. Our engineering facility was in this place called Fremont, across the bay from Palo Alto. So I was driving back when I get a call on my cell phone. My assistant told me that XYZ from that venture capital firm wants to talk to you. I said, yeah, put them on the line. And basically they said, look, you know what? We are not going to participate in your C round. And any entrepreneur who has raised money from VCs, especially from some, top tier VCs, top tier being the top 5, would know if one of those VCs decides not to participate in one of your rounds. That's a kiss of death.
Absolutely.
So I said, okay, fine. And another thing I knew was you don't argue with VCs. Having worked at Kleiner Perkins myself, I knew I'd been on the other side of the table that, yep, as an entrepreneur, you don't argue with them.
Right.
Anyway, so it was a Friday afternoon. All these things happen on a Friday afternoon. I don't know why. That's the roll of the dice that it always happens on a Friday afternoon.
Good weekend.
Anyways, I took the first exit after I crossed this bridge. It's called the Dumbarton Bridge. And my intent was कि local दारू की दुकान किधर है यहाँ पे. And the first restaurant I found was the TGIF. And I went in, I called my wife, told her that, you know what, I'm at this TGIF in Newark. Can you come and pick me up in a couple of hours? And she was very kind. She said, sure, I will do that. And I sat there, ordered myself a drink. And the bartenders here in Silicon Valley, they always know a successful entrepreneur from a non-successful entrepreneur. So he looked at me, gave me that look, you're not going anywhere. And that look was written all over my face. So, I had one drink, moved on to my second one. And during the second drink, I realized what's called the aha moment. And this would be sort of my advice to some of the entrepreneurs here. There's something called an aha moment that all the entrepreneurs need to realize when that aha moment happens. The aha moment for me was when I started Urja. I started not with venture money. I was working at Kleiner Perkins. I could have taken Series A from Kleiner. I decided to start it with a purchase order from a customer. I'm a big fan of starting companies with purchase order from customers.
Absolutely. I mean, of course.
So we had started the company with this purchase order, and we had grown essentially by selling our prototypes. And then when we had got repeat purchase orders, that's when I had brought in Sequoia and others. But somewhere along the way, I realized that, less than 2 years from starting the company, I had almost burned through $20 million. And I still did not have a product. So I realized that what these guys at that VC firm were saying, that I had missed my deadlines, I had missed the targets, they were dead on. So having realized through that aha moment, the next thing for me was either I shut down the company, because you got to realize at that point, Urja had about 150 employees, and our burn rate per month was about $2 million. And we literally had about $2 million in the bank. So I could not have lasted more than a month.
Just 1 month runway ahead.
So the decision was, should I shut down the company or should I continue and do something? So made that decision. My lovely wife came and picked me up, took me home. And I don't remember, if I got, the cold look on the way, but I'm sure I did. But anyway, we set up a meeting. I set up a meeting on Saturday, and that was the toughest meeting ever of my life. That was the meeting where I had decided that I will let go of 80% of my company. And, I could not pay them severance. So almost about 120 people had to be let go. Others, I told them, I said, you know what? You don't call me, you are on administrative leave, I will call you. Because some of my salespeople had told me that we were expecting a purchase order from Nissan and from McDonald's, the burger people. So I went to Nissan, got the purchase order from Tennessee, then went to McDonald's, got another purchase order from them, came back, called the people back and told them that, look, guys, here are the purchase orders. The cost per unit is $16,000. It cost us about $30,000 to make it. If you guys feel that over the next 4 months, we can reduce the cost at least to be at parity with $16,000, we are in. Otherwise, I'll return the purchase orders and shut the company. Long story short, Vaibhav, essentially over those 4 months, it was what I call the nuclear winter. We were able to bring the cost down, not to 16, but close to 16. And After that, took the company to profitability in 2010, and then the company was sold in 2014. So the learning there was venture money is good, but customers always king, and profitability is a lot better than depending on venture money. So that was I would say my experience.
Very profound experiences, and very nicely put. It is that all of us who have done ventures and who have raised money and had venture capitalists on board, we somehow from the outside, to the time we haven't done it, we don't quite realize what that comes along with. And definitely venture capitalists are there. There are certain expectation, and they are brutal at times. Okay, and probably they have to be brutal at times because it's dictated by the contours or the framework within which they operate. But we always have to be very cognizant of that. So wonderful, yeah. So actually, in 2008 crisis, when the world was dying, you were actually able to raise the valuation of your company. But then you got subsequently refused by the venture capitalists to participate in the subsequent round, which was critical for your company because funds-wise, you had a very small runway left. And from that point on, that is like a 1983 World Cup, 17-5 India, and then Kapil Dev comes in and bats, makes 175, India wins. You had that kind of a thing that you actually, from there, you turn around and took the company to great heights, that it became a formidable player. And you had a great exit. Phenomenal, Sanjeev, that's great. It is from after that, of course, you did multiple things, but then you got picked up by the government, and you were in White House for a couple of years. I think it'll be very exciting for people to know about that. How did that happen?
Well, there was, I was without a job. Mm-hmm. I had sold India, had exited it, and I was spending time with our two boys. This was in the year 2014. So summer, the older boy at that time, he was 9 years old, and the younger guy was 7 years old. And they used to call it Camp Dad. Nimita, my wife, she used to go to work, and Camp Dad would be essentially running in the morning, swimming in the afternoon, and a lot of math in the late afternoon. So they were very eager, Dad, go get a job. Leave us alone. Let's shut this Camp Dad thing down. And so I get a call from Secretary Ernie Moniz, the Secretary of Energy, the Energy Secretary under Obama. And he said, look, we are setting up this Clean Energy Investment Fund, Clean Energy Investment Center, along with the White House, Vice President Biden's office. This was sort of a run up to the Paris Agreement, and you have some experience which is relevant to us. Would you be interested? So I thought, this is government talk. Sure, why not? And next thing I knew, I was being flown to Washington, D.C., and I was meeting with some folks, and the process had started. So from a joke, it actually became a reality. And then I joined them, set up this was, I remember on my first day, Secretary Manish told me, he says, Sanjeev, this is a wide open playing field. We don't understand venture capital, you do. We understand startups a little bit, you do a lot of it. We only understand science. So go do whatever you can. Just make sure that the $16 billion that we deploy every year, that is the budget of Department of Energy. The total budget is $32 billion. 16 is for nuclear stuff and 16 is for rest of the stuff. So he says the $16 billion is put to use where we can commercialize technologies coming out of the 17 Department of Energy labs. So it was a dual role of setting up the fund for the Department of Energy as well as the chief commercialization officer. And they had no precedent there in the sense that they never had a commercialization officer and they never had the fund. So it was fairly exciting being employee number one and trying to hire people. It's very difficult to hire people in the government. So
Fantastic.
hiring people and enticing them with the kind of stories I'm telling you guys, and making all of this look very sexy. That was my job. So
That's absolutely excellent. And once you enticed them, 4 years, you moved on. And I
it
couldn't
was actually
help
3 years, Weber. It
Yeah.
was 3 years. So I worked
3 years.
1 year for the Obama administration and 2 years for the Trump administration, and left them in 2019.
Yeah, so you left Trump midway. So what was it like, Sanjeev? What's the scoop? You were trumped, or you decided to become like Trump? I mean, wealthy.
Yeah, let's not discuss politics here. I think our audience is a lot more interested in other stuff. So politics, next time discuss karenge jab I'll be drinking whiskey and you'll be doing the same.
Wonderful. All right. On that note, it is coming to the real brass tacks. What you're doing, Sanjeev. Pathbreaking work with Sparks Energy and Sparks and many of the other ventures you're doing. You're placing your bets on energy, on industry 4.0, right? And the what are the third thing you have, Sanjeev?
So Plus is looking at multiple things. I don't look at it as technology or a sector. It's sort of agnostic of sectors. So we are looking at obviously industrial 4.0, as you mentioned. Excuse me. We are looking at next generation mobility, which we called CASE. CASE stands for Connected Autonomous Shared Electric Mobility. We are definitely looking at energy, the digital part of energy. And we are looking at microelectronics, and we are looking at quantum networking. So it's a very wide plethora. I heard a couple of the panelists talk about plastics. So I was interested, in fact, during my days in Washington, D.C., invested in quite a few, funded a lot of projects in plastic recycling. And we did some work with Pepsi on that. But now we are not looking into that. But those are the broader areas that we are sort of looking at.
Fantastic. And it is, while there is a each of these is a very deep subject in its own. But for the purpose of this audience, which is the IIT BHU alumni, and largely in India, though not only, we have a lot of participants from overseas also. But for India as a country, and given that you have your roots here, you still keep coming here. We keep meeting once a year. Do you think that there is somewhere India can participate in these opportunities which are emerging in digital energy, CASE, and so on?
Definitely, Weber. Again, when you ask me that question, I'm reminded of this story. It's not a story, but a very good friend of ours, and Weber, you obviously know him, Eric. We'll keep the last name out. When he joined undergrad, right after the ragging period, after that freshers period, this guy moved to these Hawaii chappals.
Yeah, which was a straight Eric Samuel. Yeah.
All right, so you've let the cat out of the bag. But anyway, he moved to Hawaii chappals. And throughout those 4 years, he wore just that one pair of Hawaii chappals. Jab the strap would break, I think the strap must have broken a few hundred times. He would get it stitched by the cobbler sitting by the corner, one of the limby corner of DG corner.
I also saw him with a safety pin, and he was thick-skinned, so it didn't hurt him.
So the reason I talk about that, Weber, is because that is Indian innovation.
Yeah.
He understood what the pain point was. And if that chappal is available today, I would pay as much as he wants for the chappal, and I would sell it to Smithsonian, because that chappal is a classic example of nanomaterial, material science, surgery, you name it. Okay. Even in like probably nano scale, he was putting pins and doing the stitching and all that. So look, innovation, people call it jugaad. I somehow don't like that word, but innovation is an integral part of India. So for me, when I look at what Plus is doing, Plus is following this model. I don't know if Weber, you know of something called SBIR. SBIR, or it's called the Small Business Innovative Research. It's given out by a US federal agency, small business administration. And in the last 35 plus years they've been around, they have funded almost close to 200,000 projects. What they do is they'll take innovation in different fields: energy, healthcare, defense, medicine, commerce, you name it. There are about 11 federal agencies that contribute to it, and they fund almost about 5,000 projects each year. They will take very early technology and give them a couple $100,000 so that they can go through the proof of concept. And then if that is successful, they will give them about $1 million or so, or between $500,000 to $1 million, so that they can have a prototype. So the plus model is exactly the same, although not that scale. The plus model is that each year we are looking to invest in those 5 or 6 sectors that I talked about. And in each sector, we're funding about 10 companies or so. So about 50 or 60 projects will be funded, and give them about $500,000 each. If they're successful, then we take them to the next level. If they're not, then you basically realize pretty early on, in about 12 months, that the project's not going to go that extra mile. So the reason I talk about that model
is projects sound like a prototyping type of.
I'm going to come to that. So yes, so they are basically, with that $1 million that we give them, $500,000 to $1 million, they are supposed to get to a prototype. So there are 2 areas I feel where there could be cooperation or collaboration with India. One is to set up this kind of a model. I think India has the best human capital. There are a lot of Eric Samuels out there who could essentially be starting companies, and they can be funded, and you can get a very solid pipeline of technology. So one is, I think Plus is going to be getting into India possibly the next 18 to 24 months. The second is, these entities that we fund here, these projects, they always would be needing help in areas like systems engineering, electrical engineering, software, etc. Basically rapid prototyping, as you were saying. So my idea is that Plus is essentially going to be setting up a few rapid prototyping centers in India where you would have this kind of human capital or talent, which our portfolio companies can use at a much lesser cost, where they can do what I call DFX. DFX stands for design for X's, whatever the need of the customer.
Get this right. If I understand correctly, you're saying that a given team could be working on the prototype, okay, and to work on the prototype, they get certain funds, and once the prototype is successful, to improve the prototype with the the various elements of robustness which you bring into it, there is another set of funds which could be given, and these teams could be anywhere. So these teams could be in India.
That's the intent. That's the intent. So look, large companies like Microsoft, GE, all these have innovation centers in India, Bangalore or Gurgaon, etc.
So let me answer the question then. What prevents us from, that means in IITs, and I hope all the IIT directors get to hear this, that in IIT labs, okay, our students, whether they're undergraduate students or the postgrad or PhD students, and they can work on these prototyping projects, okay, which just could be ready to fund, and they get the funding, okay, while they are still in college, to work upon a particular piece of technology, make it robust, and hand it over to Plus. Is it right?
That's the idea. So I'll take it one step ahead. In India, there is a huge movement now for Make in India. But before you get to that finish line where you start setting up these large factories, having these centers where we can make rapid prototypes, as I was saying, looking at what's called TPS or Toyota Production System, there's some concept of DFX, design for excellence, where you design for the customer, you design for manufacturability, design for cost, etc., etc. So if we can have these centers, maybe one for mobility, one for energy, one for microelectronics, etc., etc. So if we can have these centers where you can do the rapid prototyping, I think that lends itself as a pathways to bringing manufacturing to India.
That's phenomenal. I mean, I hope this message gets across to all the academicians and the IIT directors particularly, That seems like a huge opportunity. I would say something similar, sounds something similar to offshoring of software way back 30, 40 years back. Great, wonderful, Sanjeev. There's a lot to talk on, but of course, there's the time ticking. And in the interest of time, I think, given that our shared BHU background and everything, I think as a parting shot, can I ask you just one personal question, if you don't mind? So, you obviously, people have seen you have a very bright career. What were your grade points in college, by the way?
I was at the bottom of the class, yeah.
Kya baat kar rahe?
Yeah, I was, I think, if you want the real grade points, I think I was somewhere like about 6.3. But
6.3.
that's, yeah. पर लोगों को वो नहीं मैं बताता. लोगों को I just tell them I add a fudge factor to it and say that I was about 8.5.
Now the cat is out of the bag. 6.38, buddies. So all you students out there and everybody understand.
No. Don't give them that example.
No, let me
Don't give them that example.
No, let me put this in the right context. See, it is what he is not saying. It is not being said that grades don't matter. If you are in first year or second year, by all means, go and get the best grades. But if you're in fourth year, for whatever reason, if you did not get the grades, there is as much life ahead of you as anybody else. There is as much opportunity out there as everybody else. It is what you make of it, really. Sanjeev, that is a great chat talking to you. That is so nice of you, particularly to take out time on a Saturday night, your time. So thank you very much on behalf of all IIT BHU Alumni Association. Wish you a great night and a great weekend. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Over to you.
Thanks, Mr. Vaibhav. That's a great session. Concept of creating twin earth and using enhanced data technologies to solve environmental issues. This is very interesting, Abhilasha. Hope your startup reaches all the continents at the earliest. Best of luck. Rejecting a corporate job and taking up a social sector job and working on model villages, school programs and waste management. Very inspiring, Vishal. All the best for all future efforts. Starting from advocating on policy changes to creating awareness on environment and working on technology for a possible solution. Kudos, Pratha. Keep up the good work again. And thanks for sharing with us about the profound work and great life experiences, Dr. Sanjeev. Glad to hear from you. So we now move on to our next session, Future Speak. So here we intend to bring together global thought leaders, CEOs, technologists, and leading lights from academia and industry and government to discuss not only the policy measures that should be taken, but also suggest us with opportunities and solutions in areas of research and innovation. We would also look at issues pertaining to bringing in new technology, FDI, and ease of doing business. I now invite Mr. Shankar Ramurthy, 1982 Chemical Engineering, IIT BHU alumnus, with Diploma in Management Studies. He is a water sector specialist who has spent 37 years in water sector in India, Middle East, and Asia Pacific regions in government, municipal, and industrial segments. He was former business head, Water Adani Group, VP for Water Infrastructure Business, SR Projects, General Manager for GE Water and Process Technologies, Voltas and Ion Exchange. Over to you, Mr. Shankar.
Thank you, Preeti. Good morning and welcome to all. I hope I'm audible and visible too.
Yeah, you are.
Good. It was a wonderful session earlier. Thanks to Vaibhav and all the speakers. It was quite inspirational, although some of them were one generation below us, but it was quite inspirational to really understand how the next generation is taking up the environment as a very serious subject and making a career as early as they have done. And it was inspirational to really understand what directions that they are taking. Now it's a great privilege to me to be among the eminent personalities in India as well as globally with regards to environment and how this is going to take forward with regards to what has already been done and how the policies are getting administered and how sustainability is to be maintained among these tiring and challenging times. So the three panelists I wanted to name today are one, Sri Rajendra Singh Ji, who is an inspirational leader, who is a staunch environmentalist, who is a water conservationist, and who has already been awarded some of the prestigious awards globally, the Magsaysay Award in 2001 and Stockholm Water Prize, which is considered equivalent to a Nobel Prize in water sector. And popularly, Shri Rajendra Singh Ji is known as Waterman of India. So we will talk about him and his work that he has done, human services with regards to water, more particularly in the rural areas. Next, we have Shri Durga Shankar Mishra Ji, IAS, and IIT alumni, Kanpur alumni, electrical engineering, plus a whole lot of diploma and postgraduate in human relations, public policy, and many other credentials to his credit. And he has been in the government offices of various sectors, and it's a privilege to talk to him on this panel. And third, we have Mr. Anirban Ghosh, who is an alumni of IIM Ahmedabad first, and then is a global leader. He's considered among the top 10 CSR leaders in a global list. He's heading the as a chief sustainability officer in the Mahindra Group, and he has also addressed a lot of forums and shared the need to shape the urban spaces in sustainability. And he has been elaborating on how cities across the world are pushing the agenda for being sustainable. So from all these three dignitaries, we have a lot to learn from whatever time permits we can discuss with them. So I would like to first go to welcome Shri Rajendra Singh Ji. Namaskar, sir.
Namaste, namaste.
Welcome to our BHU, IIT BHU Alumni Environment webinar. So tell me, sir, you have had a very, from starting with Ayurveda, you came onto the water as a specialist, and then you have really changed the lives of the people, especially on the rural side in Rajasthan, and you have faced so much of difficulties, and with only single focus on how the water can be made available in a sustained manner to the people of India. What are the challenges that you face? What has been your secret mantra, and how you have been an inspiration to all of us with regards to the water awareness, water education that you have brought to the people of Rajasthan to start with, sir?
I can speak in Hindi or you like in English?
Sure, sir, sure. Hindi is fine, perfectly okay, sir.
देखिए, जैसे मेरी पढ़ाई पूरी हुई तो मैं भारत सरकार में जयपुर चला गया, और फिर मुझे 4 साल काम करने के बाद सरकार में लगा कि यार यहाँ तो एक दिल्ली का ऑर्डर आता है और उसी को फॉलो करने में लगता है, अपना दिमाग कभी लगा नहीं सकते अपने काम में, तो इस इतनी बड़ी मशीन में अपने को एक छोटा पुर्जा रख के क्यों घिसना। तो हमने रिजाइन किया, और रिजाइन करने के बाद तो जो पढ़ाई हमने पढ़ी थी उसको हमने याद किया, और हमने सोचा कि जो लोग लाचार, बेकार, बीमार होकर उजड़ रहे हैं उनकी सेवा का काम करेंगे। तो हम राजस्थान के अलवर जिले के थानागाजी तहसील में गोपालपुरा गांव में, जहां रतौंधी नाम का रोग था बहुत भयानक, नाइट ब्लाइंडनेस, माल न्यूट्रिशन के कारण, तो हम उनका इलाज करने लगे, और उसमें से बहुत सारे रोगी ठीक हो गए। उनमें से एक बूढ़ा रोगी था जिसका नाम था मांगू काका, मांगू पटेल। उसने कहा, ओ राजेंद्र, तू जो इलाज करे छे ना, इसे तो थोड़े से लोग ठीक होंगे, और ये आदमी बड़ा लोभी और लालची है, इस आदमी की कभी सेवा करने की जरूरत नहीं। तुझे सेवा करनी है तो धरती माता की कर, और धरती की सेवा करेगी तो जो लोग अभी लाचार, बेकार, बीमार होके उजड़ गए हैं वो अपने आप अपनी धरती पे आके अपने को पैरों पे खड़ा कर लेंगे। ये बात उस जमाने में सुनने में बहुत बड़ी लगती थी, लेकिन हमने उनकी बात पर यकीन किया, और यकीन करके हमने अपनी दवाई का काम और पढ़ाई का काम दोनों बंद किए। और फिर उसके बाद हमने कहा कि भाई अब पानी का काम हमें करना नहीं आता, अब तू सिखा। तो उसने मुझे सूखे कुओं में नीचे डाल दिया, 100 फीट से ज्यादा गहरे, चमड़े के चरस में बैठा के चमड़े का चरस पानी निकालने के लिए एक लेदर बॉक्स होता है, उसमें बैठा के नीचे डाल दिया और फिर निकाल के पूछा, तैने कहीं देखा रहा कुएं में? तो मैंने कहा, काका ई कुएं में तो कन्फाइंड वर्टिकल फ्रैक्चर्स हैं, मतलब सीधी दरारें हैं ऊपर से नीचे की तरफ। तो बोला, देख ये जो दरार है ये ही पानी देती है, ऊपर के पानी को ये नीचे लेके आती हैं, और फिर जब वो पानी धरती में इकट्ठा रहता है तो वहां से सूरज चोरी नहीं कर सकता। हमारे राजस्थान में सूरज की नजर बहुत टेढ़ी है और वो पानी की चोरी कर लेता है, उड़ा लेता है। तो मैंने कहा, काका मैंने तो पढ़ाई में ये पढ़ा था कि जो सूरज चोरी करता है वो हमारे लिए करता है, वो पानी लेके आता है। बोला, ये जो पढ़ाई है ये अंधी है। सूरज चोरी करता है समुद्र से, जब समुद्र से चोरी करता है तो सबका भला होता है, लेकिन राजस्थान जैसी जगह पर जहां पानी बहुत कम बरसता है वहां भी सूरज चोरी करे तो सबका भला कैसे होगा? तो ये जो पढ़ाई है ये बिल्कुल अंधी है, इसमें सब ये एक जैसे हाँकते हैं सबको। तो मैंने कहा, काका काई करे? बोला, देख जदे सीधी सड़क है ना वठे बांध बना, वठे बांध बनावेगा तो पानी नीचे जाएगा और फिर सूरज चोरी नहीं करेगा, राजस्थान भी पानीदार बन जाएगा। तो उस आदमी ने मुझे जियो हाइड्रो साइंस में एक दिन में 25 सूखे कुएं दिखाए और मेरी पीएचडी कंप्लीट कर दी शाम को। मुझे कहा, बस अब ये ध्यान रखना, जहां धरती में ऊपर से नीचे तक सीधे फ्रैक्चर हैं वहीं पानी रोकना, वहां पानी धरती के ऊपर नहीं रुकेगा, नीचे धरती में जाएगा और फिर हमारे कुओं में पानी आ जाएगा, सब कुएं पानीदार बन जाएंगे। तो दोस्त, हमने साइंस और फिर एक तरह से जो उनकी अपनी इंजीनियरिंग थी, जिसको चालू भाषा में आईआईटी आजकल सिविल इंजीनियरिंग कहते हैं, वो रियली सिविल इंजीनियरिंग नहीं पढ़ाते, वो भी कैरिकुलम ही पढ़ाते हैं। सिविल इंजीनियरिंग वो होती है जिसको सिविल सोसाइटी जानती और समझती है और जिसको सिविल सोसाइटी अपने संकट के समाधान में उपयोग करती है। तो मुझे उसने वही सिविल इंजीनियरिंग सिखाई जो वो अपने पानी के काम को, जहां स्टीप स्लोप थे वहां कॉन्वेक्स डिजाइन के डैम बनाए, जोहड़ बनाए, चेक डैम बनाए, एनीकट बनाए। जहां जेंटिल स्लोप थे वहां सीधे बना दिए और जहां नेचुरल डिप्रेशन था वहां कॉनकेव स्ट्रक्चर्स बना दी। तो ये जो सिंपल साइंस थी, जिसको साइंस विद सेंस कहते हैं, जिसको साइंस विद कॉमन सेंस कहते हैं, वो साइंस मुझे एक दिन में पीएचडी कराई उसने जियो हाइड्रो साइंस में, और एक दिन में नेचुरल इंजीनियरिंग में, इन्वायरमेंट इंजीनियरिंग की, जहां जहां स्टीप स्लोप्स हैं वहां कॉन्वेक्स डिजाइन का डैम बनाओगे तो वाटर फोर्स डिवाइड हो जाएगा, और जहां जेंटिल स्लोप है वहां स्टेट भी बना दोगे तो रुका रहेगा, और जहां नेचुरल डिप्रेशन है वहां कॉनकेव बनाओ। तो चूंकि मेरा टीचर अनपढ़ था, इलिटरेट था, कभी कॉलेज में नहीं गया था, उसके माइंड को इस मॉडर्न एजुकेशन ने पॉल्यूट नहीं किया था। ये जो मॉडर्न एजुकेशन है वो टेक्नोलॉजी और इंजीनियरिंग केवल एक्सट्रैक्शन ऑफ, केवल एक्सप्लॉइटेशन ऑफ नेचुरल रिसोर्स पढ़ाती है। सारी आईआईटी यही पढ़ाती है और उसके कारण पॉल्यूशन होता है, और फिर ये जो नेचर का जब एक्सप्लॉइटेशन हो जाता है तो फिर ड्राउट और फ्लड इस धरती पे बढ़ने लगते हैं। क्योंकि मेरा टीचर अनपढ़ था, इलिटरेट था, एक भी शब्द पढ़ा लिखा नहीं था, इसलिए उसने साइंस और टेक्नोलॉजी को दोनों को इंटीग्रेट करके मुझे सिखाया। तुम्हारी आईआईटीज में या तो टेक्नोलॉजी पढ़ेंगे या तो साइंस पढ़ेंगे, उसको इंटीग्रेटेड करके समग्रता से कभी कोई पढ़ाता नहीं है। इसलिए मेरी जो सीख थी इलिटरेट फार्मर की, उसने मुझे ये सिखाया था कि सूरज का जो एवोपरेशन लॉस करता है उसको कैसे रोकना और कैसी टेक्नोलॉजी काम में लेना जिसमें तुझे आयरन और स्टील और सीमेंट की जरूरत ना हो। तो दोस्त, मैंने बिना सरकारी मदद के, बिना किसी कॉरपोरेट की मदद के, बिना किसी सरकारी मदद के 11,800 डैम बनाए, जो पूरी हमारी कम्युनिटी ने कम्युनिटी ड्रिवन डिसेंट्रलाइज्ड वाटर मैनेजमेंट के कॉन्सेप्ट पे काम किया। इसके कारण हम 1200 गांव जो बेपानी हो गए थे, उजड़ गए थे, उनको पानीदार बना सके। हम नदियों को पुनर्जीवित कर सके क्योंकि हमने डिस्चार्ज और रिचार्ज का संतुलन बनाया। तो जब एक तरफ आप साइंस और टेक्नोलॉजी को इंटीग्रेट करके काम करते हैं तो फिर एक नेचुरल मैनेजमेंट होता है जो कम्युनिटी ड्रिवन होता है। वो फिर एग्जिस्ट करने लगता है, फिर वो आने लगता है समाज में। तो हमारी कम्युनिटी में कॉन्फिडेंस आया और उसने फिर अपने पानी का एफिशिएंट यूज, हमने फिर उसमें थोड़ा स्किल डेवलपमेंट के कुछ काम किए, थोड़ी ट्रेनिंग की, और इसलिए एफिशिएंट यूज ऑफ वाटर एंड कंजर्वेशन एंड रिजुविनेशन ऑफ नेचर, ये मूल सिद्धांत हमने अपने काम में उपयोग किए, जिनके कारण हम धरती पर, भारत की धरती पर 12 नदियों को, अरवरी, रूपारेल, सरसा, भगानी, जहाजवाली, साबी और महेश्वरा, और 2 नदी महाराष्ट्र की, अग्नि और महाकाल, और 1 नदी कर्नाटक की, ये 12 नदियों को हम, छोटी छोटी नदियां हैं, उनको रिजोनेट कर पाए। कुल 11,800 स्ट्रक्चर्स बने।
वेरी गुड राजेंद्र सिंह जी, बहुत बहुत इंस्पिरेशनल मिला आपके विषय पर। आपने जो नेचुरल रिसोर्सेस को सोच के बियॉन्ड इंजीनियरिंग जो हम क्लासरूम में पढ़ते हैं उसके आगे का सोच के आपने प्रैक्टिकल तरीके में इतना कुछ कर दिखाया। आपने सिर्फ आइडिया भी नहीं रखा, सब इसके वजह से कितने लोगों को फायदा हुआ है ये हम जानते हैं। इसीलिए आपको इट्स अ बिफिटिंग ऑनर दैट यू आर बीइंग कॉल्ड एज अ वाटरमैन ऑफ इंडिया। इस विषय पर समय मिलने पर फिर बात करेंगे। नाउ आई वुड लाइक टू एड्रेस टू श्री दुर्गा शंकर मिश्रा जी. Sir, we have heard Rajendra Singh ji at the rural level. Now we come to the urban level where the impact will be on much larger scales. Your ministry has been is the authority in developing the urban infrastructure. It's so much focused now on India Atmanirbhar, and your ministry is focusing on providing infra support for all the Make in India initiatives. What are the plans and directives for your ministry, and how you are managing in light of the urbanization, is particularly you have announced the smart cities? And sir, I will also like you to touch upon one subject with regards to the sewage treatment plants that are getting developed across India, whether it's a debate which goes on in the water fraternity always, whether the centralized large STPs are better or a decentralized STPs are better, and how we can address the water pollution at the source itself, at the local area, or consolidating in a bigger way. So particularly with direct shift on the NGT norms about the discharge norms which are within the water body internally or externally. So, sir, we would like to hear from you.
Thank you, राममूर्ति साहब। पहले तो मैं राजेंद्र सिंह वाटरमैन जी को नमस्ते करता हूं, और तमाम सारे लोग जो इस कार्यक्रम में आपके इस वर्कशॉप में जुड़े हुए हैं, उन तमाम सारे लोगों को मैं नमस्ते करता हूं। और राजेंद्र सिंह जी से क्यों लेता हुआ, मैं भी हिंदी में ही बोलूंगा, मैं अंग्रेजी में नहीं बात करूंगा। वो आपको हिंदी में बोलता देखा, मुझे हिंदी बोलना ज्यादा अच्छा लगता है, तो मैं भी हिंदी में बोलूंगा, लेकिन राजस्थानी नहीं बोलूंगा, क्योंकि उनको राजस्थानी में उनको थोड़ी वहां पे काम करके उनको उसकी काफी मास्टरी हो गई है। तो पहले तो मैं उनको बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद दूंगा। उनसे मेरी ये दूसरी मुलाकात है कॉन्फ्रेंस में। जब मैं उत्तर प्रदेश का प्रमुख सचिव नगर विकास हुआ करता, तो एक कॉन्फ्रेंस में हमारी मुलाकात आमने सामने, एक ही हम लोग दोनों मंच पे थे, तब हमारी मुलाकात हुई थी। और आज आप डिजिटल माध्यम से मुलाकात हो रही है। आपकी बड़ी प्रशंसा सुनी मैंने, बीच में हमारे कांटेक्ट भी हुआ करते थे। तो आपके अंदर जो एक पैशन है, और वो पैशन मुझे नहीं मालूम था, ये कहानी सुनकर के अच्छा लगा कि एक गांव के अनपढ़ किसान ने आपको ये कहानी बताई, और कैसे आपको इसमें मास्टरी करा दी। वैद्य से आपको जो है पानी का जो वैद्य बना दिया, ये बहुत बड़ा, ये आपकी कहानी सुनकर के बहुत मुझे अच्छा लगा। तो उसके लिए मैं बहुत बहुत आपको प्रणाम करता हूं, और मैं समझता हूं कि आपका यह पैशन बना रहेगा। जो आज पूरे देश में माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने जल संरक्षण की बात 2019 के स्वतंत्रता दिवस का जो लाल किले के प्राचीर से पूरे देश को संबोधन होता है, उन्होंने जल संरक्षण की बात की थी। और इसी जल संरक्षण के तहत तमाम सारा काम पूरे देश भर में हो रहा है, ग्रामीण क्षेत्र में हो रहा है, शहरी क्षेत्र में भी हो रहा है। तो मैं समझता हूं कि जो उसमें राजेंद्र सिंह जी की बहुत बड़ी भूमिका है, जो उनकी लर्निंग है, उस लर्निंग को आगे बढ़ाया जा रहा है। तो ये इसके लिए उन्हें धन्यवाद दूंगा। इसके बाद में आपने अर्बन एरिया की बात की राममूर्ति जी। अर्बन एरिया देखिए, उसकी एक अलग किस्म के चैलेंजेस है, अलग किस्म की चुनौती है। जो 2011 का हमारा जनगणना हुआ था, उसमें हमारे शहरी इलाके में लगभग 38 करोड़ लोग रह रहे थे, जो देश की आबादी के 31% से ज्यादा थे। लेकिन जो पिछले 2 दशकों में देश में शहरी क्षेत्र का जनसंख्या में जिस प्रकार से बढ़ोतरी हुई है, अगर उस संकेत को लेकर के चले तो अंदाजा यह है कि 2030 तक हमारे देश में लगभग 40% यानी लगभग 60 करोड़ लोग शहरी इलाके में रहेंगे। और यही अगर इस प्रकार का बढ़ोतरी होता रहा तो 2051 का जो हमारा गणना होगा तो देश में लगभग 88 करोड़ के आसपास लोग, 88 करोड़, जो कि मोर देन 50% होगा हमारा देश ओवरऑल, ये एक शहरी इलाका, शहरी देश हो जाएगा। ये हमारी जनगणना 2051 में होगी। अब जिस प्रकार से कहने का मतलब यह है कि जो आज के देश में अनुमान हमारा है लगभग 40 करोड़ लोग रहते हैं, 2050 यानी केवल 3 दशकों में हम उतनी ही आबादी शहरी इलाके में और बढ़ा लेंगे। अब जिस प्रकार से देश के अर्बन इलाके में आने का, मैं खुद एक गांव का रहने वाला हूं, एक किसान का बेटा हूं, गांव का रहने वाला हूं, गांव में पैदा हुआ, हमारी शुरुआती शिक्षा हुई और उसके बाद में शहर में आया। जब गांव से कोई शहर में आता है उसकी तमाम किस्म की आकांक्षाएं होती है। गांव में वो जैसे भी रह ले, लेकिन शहर में आते हैं उसको अच्छा रहने के लिए मकान भी चाहिए, उसको सुख सुविधा के लिए, बच्चों को पढ़ाई के लिए, बच्चों के लोगों के घर के लोगों के स्वास्थ्य के लिए, अपने इंटरटेनमेंट के लिए और तमाम सारी चीजें, उसको अपनी जो एक उसके अंदर जो उसके कौशल है, उस कौशल को पूरी तरह से उसका लाभ लेने के लिए उसे बिजनेस अपॉर्चुनिटीज हो, उसके लिए एक अलग एम्प्लॉयमेंट अपॉर्चुनिटीज हो, ये तमाम सारी चीजें वो ढूंढता है। जिस प्रकार से शहरों का विकास हुआ, एक बार जब गांव से कोई शहर में आता है तो उसको सबसे पहले तो वो झुग्गी झोपड़ी में रहने का रखना पड़ता है, क्योंकि उतना एफोर्ड नहीं कर सकता है। वो अनऑथराइज्ड कॉलोनीज में रहता है, इनफॉर्मल सेटलमेंट में रहता है, क्योंकि वो एफोर्ड नहीं कर सकता, नॉर्मल एफोर्ड नहीं कर सकता। उसको पानी की समस्या से लेकर के, नौकरी की समस्या से लेकर के, स्वास्थ्य, तमाम सारी समस्याओं से वो तमाम किस्म की चुनौतियों से जूझता है और इसके नतीजन वो टूटने लगता है। उसकी जो अर्थव्यवस्था में जो एक योगदान होना चाहिए वो नहीं होता है। इन सारी चीजों को देखते हुए 2014 में माननीय प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने जब 2014 में आए तो उन्होंने पूरी इस चुनौती को एक अवसर के तौर पे देखा। और आपको ध्यान होगा कि 2014 के 15 अगस्त 2014 के स्वतंत्रता दिवस पे जो लाल किले के प्राचीर से देश का संबोधन होता है, उसमें उन्होंने एक स्वच्छ भारत का अभियान शुरू करने की घोषणा की। तमाम सारे लोग इस बात का शक था, क्योंकि आज आप इन्वायरमेंट की बात करें, फ्यूचर ऑफ इन्वायरमेंट की बात कर रहे हैं, तमाम लोगों को शक था कि ये लाल किले से पूरे देश को स्वच्छ करने की चुनौती कितनी बड़ी समस्या होगी, क्या ये कोई देश कर भी पाएगा कि नहीं कर पाएगा, लोगों को विश्वास नहीं था। लेकिन आज लगभग 6 सालों के बाद मैं पूरे विश्वास के साथ कहता हूं कि हमारे देश का हर नागरिक को इस बात का पूरा विश्वास है। हमने बहुत बड़ा रास्ता, चाहे ग्रामीण क्षेत्र हो चाहे शहरी क्षेत्र में, उसको नापा है और आगे के लिए बिल्कुल स्पष्ट है कि अगर ये हमारी अगर व्यवस्था बनी रही तो आने वाले समय में बिल्कुल स्वच्छ हो जाएंगे। जो हमारा लक्ष्य था, आपको मैं शहरी इलाके के बारे में बता दूं, आज हमारे देश के कुल 4372 शहर है, उसमें 12 शहर वेस्ट बंगाल का अगर छोड़ दें, उसके बारे में पिछले हफ्ते में वेस्ट बंगाल कलकत्ता में था, उन्होंने कहा कि मार्च तक पूरा कर लेंगे। 100% सारे शहर हमारे ओपन डेफिकेशन पे, यानी कहीं बाहर डेफिकेट करने की शहरों में आवश्यकता नहीं है। हम ओडीएफ से संतुष्ट नहीं है, बल्कि हमने ओडीएफ प्लस, यानी हमारे टॉयलेट में पानी भी है, बिजली भी है, उसका पूरा उसमें हाइजीन भी है, उसको इंश्योर करते हुए उसे हमने ओडीएफ प्लस किया और आज हमारे 1500 से ज्यादा शहर ओडीएफ प्लस हो चुके हैं। जो फीकस लज है उसका प्रॉपर मैनेजमेंट हो रहा है, प्रॉपर उसको जो है उसको हम ले जाकर उसको ट्रीट करें। इसके लिए ओडीएफ प्लस प्लस हमारे लगभग 500 शहर हमारे ओडीएफ प्लस प्लस हैं। अगर गार्बेज के बारे में देखें शहरों में, तो हमारे लगभग, मैंने ये आप 2014 के पहले किसी देखें, हम केवल 14 से 15% अपने कूड़े को प्रोसेस कर पाते थे। आज हम 68% कूड़े को प्रोसेस कर रहे हैं और आने वाले समय में हम 100% कूड़े को प्रोसेस करेंगे साइंटिफिकली, जिससे हमारे लिए लैंडफिल की समस्या न रहे। आज लैंडफिल के बारे में हजारों एकड़ जमीन, कल ही मैं अहमदाबाद में था, अहमदाबाद गांधीनगर में पूरा 2 हेक्टेयर जहां पे 100 फीट का एक लैंडफिल पड़ा हुआ था, वो साफ हो गया था और आज वहां पे एक अच्छा प्लांटेशन होने जा रहा, एक बढ़िया पब्लिक के लिए स्पेस बनने जा रहा। आप इंदौर में देखें, तमाम सारे हिंदुस्तान भर में एक इसकी मुहिम चली हुई है कि जो हमारे कूड़े के बड़े बड़े ढेर होते थे, अब उसको पूरा साफ करके वहां पे एक पब्लिक स्पेस बनाया जा रहा है। तो ये एक सफाई के बारे में एक जो इतनी अच्छी मुहिम चली है, जो लोगों के व्यवहार में परिवर्तन हुआ, मैं समझता हूं कि आने वाले समय के लिए वो इन्वायरमेंट के लिए बहुत बड़ा महत्वपूर्ण स्थान करेगा। ये आज हमारे पास जो शहरों में लोग जाते थे, टॉयलेट कहां पे ढूंढ नहीं सकते थे, अब बाजार में करीब 60,000 से ज्यादा टॉयलेट हमारे गूगल मैप के ऊपर आ चुके हैं। हम BHU IT की एक टेक्नोलॉजिस्ट के बीच में बात कर रहे हैं, कैसे हमने IT का प्रयोग किया कि आप कहीं भी जाएं और उस गूगल ऐप के माध्यम से नियरेस्ट टॉयलेट कहां वहां पे पहुंच सकते हैं। ये भी एक बहुत बड़ी उपलब्धि है। आज पूरे देश में एक जन आंदोलन के तौर पर हमने IT का इतना प्रयोग किया हुआ है कि हम पूरे देश के 40 करोड़ लोगों का सर्वेक्षण करते हैं केवल 4 हफ्तों में। आज एक एक जानकारी हमारे सारे MIS के माध्यम से कंप्लीटली है। हम आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस का यूज करते हैं, लोगों को इसमें जोड़ते हैं कि किस प्रकार से हम अपने देश को अधिक से अधिक सफाई कर सकें, लोगों को इसमें जोड़ करके एक नई व्यवस्था दे सके। दूसरा, जो पानी की बात राजेंद्र सिंह जी ने जो बात की, पानी की बात की, पानी के बारे में हमारी योजना लागू की गई, अटल मिशन फॉर अर्बन रिजुविनेशन एंड ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन। ये योजना लगभग 78,000 करोड़ रुपए के प्रोजेक्ट, आप सोच नहीं सकते कि जिस रफ्तार से पिछले सालों में काम हुआ है, अभी जरूर थोड़ा सा विलंब हुआ, योजना हमें 2021 में पूरी करनी थी, 1-2 साल और लग सकते हैं, लेकिन आज के तिथि में जो करीब हमारे 5,500 MLD पानी का जो हमको लोग व्यवस्था करनी थी, लगभग 3,500 MLD पानी की व्यवस्था हो चुकी है, जो कि या तो रिजुमिनेट में हमारे सोर्सेज या उसको नई बनाई गई है। और लगभग 95 लाख नए कनेक्शन, वाटर के कनेक्शन हमारे 500 शहरों में दिए गए थे। हमारा अनुमान था जो 5 साल पहले लगभग 1.39 करोड़ लोगों के घरों में पानी के कनेक्शन नहीं थे, इसमें से 95 लाख को कनेक्शन दिया जा चुका है। जहां तक सीवर का सवाल है, सीवर सिस्टम तो हमारे बहुत ही कॉस्टली सिस्टम है। हम केवल सीवर सिस्टम में पढ़े थे पहले। इधर हमने फीकल स्लज एंड सेप्टेज मैनेजमेंट, आप लोगों को टेक्नोलॉजीज को मालूम होगा, जो दुनिया भर में टेक्नोलॉजी थी, हमारे हिंदुस्तान में टेक्नोलॉजी नहीं थी। 2017 से हमने एक मुहिम चालू की। आज तमाम सारे राज्यों, तमाम सारे शहरों में फीकल स्लज एंड सेप्टेज मैनेजमेंट के ऊपर जो है बहुत काम हो रहा है, जिससे कि आप फीकल स्लज को आप उसे पिक कर सके, उसे सेफली ट्रांसपोर्ट कर सके और उसको सही तरीके से उसको ट्रीट कर सके। और नतीजन ये कि लगभग 5,500 MLD का हमारा टोटल सीवर ट्रीटमेंट का जो कैपेसिटी बनाना था, जिसमें से आज हम लगभग 1,000 MLD का बना चुके हैं। और अगले 2 साल में जिस तेजी से काम चल रहा है, उसमें हम समझते हैं कि सारे के सारे अगले 2 साल में हमारा ये बन जाएगा, जिससे देश में सीवर ट्रीटमेंट का जो 31-32% 2014 में हमारी व्यवस्था थी, आज हम 60-62% तक उसको पहुंच सकेंगे। और आने वाले 4-5 सालों में हम 100% पहुंचने की पूरी मद्दा रखते हैं। हमारा जो गैप था लगभग 1.45 करोड़ जो लोगों के घरों में सीवर या सेप्टेज की इसकी कमी थी, जो कि आज के डेट में लगभग 55 लाख ये हमने कनेक्शन दिए। और खुशी की बात है, कोरोना काल में लगभग 15 लाख हमने वाटर कनेक्शन दिए, 9 लाख के आसपास सीवर कनेक्शन दिए। यानी कोरोना की चुनौती ने भी हमें इस काम से नहीं रोका। आने वाले समय में हम अमृत का एक नया वर्जन, जल जीवन मिशन, जैसा कि माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने घोषणा की थी, रूरल एरिया के लिए लागू हो चुका है। शहरी एरिया में कैसे हम अपने शहरों को वाटर सिक्योर सिटी बना सके, कैसे हम वाटर बैलेंस को मेंटेन कर सके, जो राजेंद्र सिंह जी बता रहे थे कि कैसे वाटर पर्कुलेशन के माध्यम से वाटर व्यवस्था को बना सकते हैं, कैसे हम लोग ट्रीट कर सके। आपको जानकर के खुशी होगी, जो 1,000 MLD का हमने जो आज सीवर ट्रीटमेंट प्लान है, उसमें से करीब 900 MLD हम उसको रिसाइकिल कर रहे हैं, रीयूज कर रहे हैं। यानी ट्रीटमेंट के बाद हम यूज कर रहे हैं। इतना हाई रीयूज एंड रीट्रीटमेंट का जो है हमारे यहाँ व्यवस्था कभी पहले थी ही नहीं। आने वाले समय में हमारा ये लक्ष्य है कि जो भी हम लोग सीवर ट्रीटमेंट से पानी निकालें, उस पानी को रीयूज करें। जो हम कॉलोनीज बनाते हैं, जो तमाम सारे अकोमोडेशन बनाते हैं, उसको हम लोग डुअल पाइपिंग सिस्टम, आज की डेट में हमारे जो प्लानिंग का जो डायरेक्शन दे रखे हैं, डुअल पाइपिंग हो, जिससे हम पानी का सही उपयोग कर सकते हैं। ये हमने लगभग 1755 ग्रीन एरियाज बनाए, ग्रीन स्पेसेस बनाए अमृत स्कीम में, जिसमें करीब 5,400 एकड़ का एक पर्कुलेशन का, जिससे पानी वहां पर्कुलेट करके ग्राउंड से रिचार्ज हो सके, इसके लिए भी हमने कार्रवाई की। लगभग 1600 स्थानों पे जो ड्रेनेज की, जहां पे पानी वाटर लॉगिंग की प्रॉब्लम होती थी, आप जानते हो उससे तमाम किस्म की समस्याएं होती हैं, उसमें से वहां पे आज वाटर लॉगिंग की समस्या ड्रेनेज के नाते खत्म हो। एक और स्कीम जो कि प्रधानमंत्री आवास योजना, आपको जब लोग शहर में आते हैं, स्लम एरिया में रहते हैं या उनको ढूंढने के लिए प्रधानमंत्री ने चैलेंज लिया कि हम पूरे देश में सबको मकान देंगे। जिसके पास मकान छोटा है, मकान नहीं है, उनको मकान देंगे। और ये जब 2015 में हमने इसका अनुमान किया राज्यों के माध्यम से कि क्या इससे हमारी मांग होगी, लगभग 1 करोड़ की
वो
बात।
जो ऐसे है ना,
आज की डेट में
जो
लगभग
ऐसे
1.12
जिस पे
करोड़,
डीपीसी डाली थी ना, उसको पहले 2 असर उसमें दे दे। हाँ,
लगभग
उसके साथ ही दे दे।
1.12 करोड़ का लक्ष्य है।
इसमें मिल
और
जाएगा,
आपको
वो अलग ना हो।
ये कोई बोल रहा साथ में, और जो कि उस 1.1 करोड़ लक्ष्य के विरुद्ध मुझे खुशी है कि लगभग 1.09 करोड़ मकान हम लोगों ने सैंक्शन कर लिया है, जिसमें 70 लाख से ज्यादा मकानों का काम कंस्ट्रक्शन शुरू हुआ, और लगभग 41 लाख लोगों को मकान दिए जा चुके हैं। और ये मकान केवल दीवारें नहीं है, बल्कि मकान जिसमें पीने का पानी है, जिसमें बिजली है, बिजली का कनेक्शन है, जिसमें गैस का कनेक्शन, जिसे चूल्हे पे खाना बना सके, जिसमें टॉयलेट बना हुआ है, जिसमें सारी सुविधाएं हैं, सुख सुविधाएं, जिससे कि लोग अपनी आकांक्षाओं को, अपनी लक्ष्य को जो सोचते हैं उसको पूरा कर सके। ये मकान जिस तेजी से बनने, दुनिया में मैं समझता हूं कि इस रफ्तार में इतने मकान कहीं नहीं बने होंगे। अभी हाल में आप BHU IIT से हमारे IIT के इंजीनियर्स बात कर रहे हैं, एक 6 स्थानों पे हमने लाइट हाउस प्रोजेक्ट अभी लॉन्च किए। माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने 1 जनवरी को 6 स्थानों पे जो ये किया, जिसमें दुनिया की बेस्ट कंस्ट्रक्शन टेक्नोलॉजी, हमारे सिविल इंजीनियर्स हैं, मैं उनको आमंत्रित करूंगा। चेन्नई में, साउथ में, इंदौर में, जो सेंट्रल एरिया में, राजकोट में वेस्ट में, लखनऊ में नॉर्दर्न एरिया में, रांची में ईस्ट में, और अगरतला में नॉर्थ ईस्ट में। यहां पे 6 ऐसी टेक्नोलॉजी, लगभग 6 मंजिल से लेकर 14 मंजिल तक के 1000 से ज्यादा मकान बनेंगे। ये मुश्किल से 8-10 महीने बनेंगे। ऐसे मकान जो कि रिसोर्स एफिशिएंट है, ऐसे मकान जो कि क्लाइमेट रिजिलियंट है, ऐसे मकान जिनको बहुत तेजी से बनाया जा सकता है, और तमाम सारी चीजें। मैं IIT के इंजीनियर्स को, BHU IIT के इंजीनियर्स को, तमाम सारे लोगों को, उनको आमंत्रित करूंगा कि एक बार जब ये सारे मकान, ये 1 जनवरी को ग्राउंड हो चुके हैं, इन पर काम चालू हो गया, अगले 2-3 महीने में जिस तेजी से काम चलेगा, एक फैक्ट्री में जैसे काम होता है कि बगल में फैक्ट्री में सारा फैब्रिकेशन हो रहा है और वहां पे जाकर के मौके पे उसकी असेंबली की जा रही है, ऐसे जो काम होंगे, एक नई चीज होगी, जिससे कि हमारे आने वाले समय में करिकुलम में आए, और यही टेक्नोलॉजी हमारी हिंदुस्तान की अपनी टेक्नोलॉजी होगी। इसके साथ ही साथ हमारे 5 जगहों पे अफोर्डेबल सस्टेनेबल हाउसिंग एक्सेलरेटर्स, IIT चेन्नई में, IIT मद्रास में, IIT बॉम्बे में, IIT खड़गपुर में, IIT रुड़की में, और जो नेशनल बिल्डिंग रिसर्च इंस्टीट्यूट है, उनका एक लेबोरेटरी है जोरहाट में। वहां पे इन 5 जगहों पे आशा इंडिया की शुरुआत की गई है, जिससे कि हमारे जो यंग इंजीनियर्स हैं वो इंक्यूबेट करें नई आइडिया, बिल्डिंग मटेरियल्स के बारे में, बिल्डिंग प्रोसेस के बारे में, बिल्डिंग टेक्नोलॉजी के बारे में, जिससे आने वाले से हम लोग इसको मास्टर कर सकें। और इसके अभी कल मैं अहमदाबाद में एक ग्रुप से मैं मिला था, इन लोग का जो काम देखा, देख करके लगता है कि कैसे हमारे बच्चे इतने अच्छी अच्छी चीजें स्टार्टअप के तौर पे बना सकते हैं। हमें उसको आगे बढ़ाना है। जो हमें स्मार्ट सिटी मिशन की जो आपने बात की राममूर्ति जी, स्मार्ट सिटी मिशन में हमारे जो 100 सर है वो हमारे लेबोरेटरीज है। वो लेबोरेटरी से हम लोग नई नई चीजें सीख करके कि हमारे आने वाले समय में अर्बन एरिया में कैसे हम वाटर कंजर्व कर सकते हैं, कैसे हम इलेक्ट्रिसिटी कंजर्व कर सकते हैं, कैसे हम रिसोर्सेज से मोर फ्रॉम लेस जो हमारे पास उपलब्ध है उससे कैसे अधिक से अधिक लोगों को देकर उनकी जिंदगी को सुधार कर सकते हैं। इसके बारे में काफी कुछ काम हुआ, और उन लर्निंग को आपको मुझे बताने की जरूरत नहीं है। जिस प्रकार से चाहे सोलर के बारे में हो, वाटर के बारे में हो, अर्बन प्लानिंग के बारे में हो, रोड सेक्टर के बारे में जो जो काम हुए हैं वो तमाम सारे पब्लिक डोमेन में है। उन चीजों को हम तमाम सारे शहरों तक लेके जाएंगे। एक और चीज, जो लास्ट चीज मैं आपसे बताना चाहूंगा, वो है एनर्जी कंजर्वेशन के बारे में, बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। LED लाइट, आपको जानकर खुशी होगी, लगभग हमारे 500 शहरों में 1 करोड़ LED लाइट हमें स्ट्रीट लाइट लगाने थे। 80 लाख से ज्यादा LED लाइट लगा चुके हैं, जिसमें 14 लाख टन से ज्यादा कार्बन फुटप्रिंट हमारी कम हो रही है। ये हमारे वाटर पंप्स, लगभग 13,000 वाटर पंप्स को एनर्जी एफिशिएंट 30-40% हम एनर्जी बचा सकते हैं। उसमें से 600 को हम कर चुके हैं, बाकी को भी हम लोग कार्रवाई कर रहे हैं। तो इस प्रकार से जो हमारी जो सोलर लाइट है, जो सोलर लाइट बनाने का जो है इसके बारे में हमारे, चाहे वो मेट्रो प्रोजेक्ट्स हो, चाहे हमारे हाउसिंग के प्रोजेक्ट्स हो, या गवर्नमेंट के जो बिल्डिंग्स हो, हर जगह हमारे इसमें स्मार्ट सोलर के बारे में तमाम सारी कार्रवाई हो रही है। जो हमारे स्मार्ट कमांड एंड कंट्रोल सेंटर 53 शहरों में बने, उसके माध्यम से लोगों को जिंदगी सुधार करने के लिए, अपने रिसोर्सेज को कंजर्व करने के लिए, रिसोर्सेज का बेस्ट यूज करने के लिए तमाम सारी चीजें हो रही है। तो ये हमारा अर्बन एरिया में एक नए किस्म का रिजुवनेटेड, एक नई किस्म की शक्ति ला करके, जिससे कि जो लोगों को ईज ऑफ लिविंग हम लोग दे सकें, जिससे लोगों की क्वालिटी ऑफ लाइफ को इंप्रूव कर सकें, लोगों को एक ऐसी व्यवस्था दे सकें जिससे कि वो जो कुछ भी चाहते हैं, जो कुछ उनकी क्षमता हो, अपनी क्षमता के मुताबिक वो बेस्ट से बेस्ट काम कर सके। इसके बारे में कार्रवाई कर रहे हैं। अगर कोई स्पेसिफिक क्वेश्चंस होंगे जरूर मैं आपको जवाब देने की कोशिश करूंगा। थैंक यू।
बहुत बहुत थैंक यू सर। इतने कम समय में आपने कंप्लीट मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ अर्बन डेवलपमेंट के डेवलपमेंट्स और इम्प्लीमेंटेशन ऑफ प्रोजेक्ट्स कंप्लीटली एनवायरमेंटली सस्टेनेबल के बारे में बताया। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। ये हमारे आने वाले पीढ़ी के लिए रियली इंस्पिरेशनल डायरेक्शन मिल जाएंगे। थैंक यू वेरी मच सर। I will now move the next speaker in this panel, Mr. Anirban Ghosh, who is the Chief Sustainability Officer, the renowned Mahindra Group of Industries in India. He has championed sustainability in a very big way, and he has established several businesses for the group in a more efficient and profitable way. And he's also a champion of new idea of sustainable business. हमने राजेंद्र सिंह जी से रूरल एनवायरनमेंट इम्प्रूवमेंट्स के बारे में सुना, उन्होंने जो भी इम्प्लीमेंट। दुर्गा शंकर मिश्रा जी ने बताया कि हाउ इट इज ऑन ए मेगा स्केल एट द सिटी लेवल और द अर्बन लेवल, integrating both. Anirban, I would like to ask you, how does Mahindra Group address the whole sustainability and the new path of sustainability in a world where climate change is a reality? So kindly tell us on the journey of the CSR and the sustainability and the new idea of sustainable business at Mahindra.
Thank you, Shankar. I'm going to stay with English because I excel at murdering the Hindi language when I speak it and the subject along with it.
Absolutely.
So English it shall be for a change. I'm sure Rajendra Singh ji knows that he is the Dronacharya in the water field. And there are many Eklavyas around the country. I happen to be one of them. Implementing the things that he has talked about and which he has taught everybody else at some villages in Madhya Pradesh on behalf of Mahindra and the Madhya Pradesh government, we learned that it was very easily possible to double per capita income in a period of 5 years' time. And this was by implementing all the learnings one gets from projects done by Rajendra Singh ji. You've heard from Mr. Durga Shankar Mishra about the increasing rate of urbanization in our country. We have very little idea about the pressure that puts on natural resources and the pressure it puts on ensuring that organizations work in a way which is far more friendly for the environment and far more efficient with natural resources, which we used to take for granted. Let me quickly share a few slides with you. It will just help me establish the points that I wish to establish on the subject of a new idea of sustainable business. Just a second. Let me know if you can see the presentation and I will get started.
Yeah, Anirban, we can see it.
Wonderful, thank you. So if there is to be a new idea of sustainable business, we must ask the question, did business not try to be sustainable earlier? Obviously, it's a rhetorical question, and there is an existing idea of what it takes to be sustainable. The things that you see on the slide are things we learn today through our education process, through our business schools, and all of them continue to be relevant. However, there are increasing pressures on corporations because of many developments in the environment and in society, some of which you've already heard in the previous two interventions. You can see the list of stimuli which are putting pressures on corporations. But it's not only these stimuli. They are in turn causing effects which are harmful for both business and society and are pushing businesses to work differently. So these are the pressures that we are facing, as a result of which there are two broad actions that businesses must take. First is to run a greener business, and second is to run new green businesses so people like you and me have climate-friendly, planet-friendly alternatives and solutions available, so that if we wish to live with a lower carbon footprint, we will be able to do so. Let me get into the details of both greening the business and new green businesses. At the group, we have combined the two in the form of the Mahindra Sustainability Framework. Notice the definition, which is building enduring business, which we've always wanted to do, but it's qualified now that while you're building enduring business, you must rejuvenate the environment and enable stakeholders to rise. And in the rest of the picture, you can see the areas of work that are covered by enduring business, rejuvenating the environment, and enabling stakeholders to rise. Let me take you through some environmental action. The first important thing to look at is to make organizations achieve carbon neutrality. Now, this includes very high levels of energy efficiency, some of which were mentioned by Mishra ji. In fact, I must tell you that in Mahindra and Mahindra, the largest business, and Tech Mahindra, all lighting is LED today. But while LED lighting and energy efficient air conditioning is something we've heard of, though I don't know whether you know that there are air conditioners today which are about 40% more efficient than a 5-star inverter air conditioner. And they are available in the country through Energy Efficiency Services Limited. In the Mahindra Group, we've already replaced upwards of 2,000 air conditioners with these very highly efficient, energy efficient air conditioners. There are also now very highly energy efficient motors. And actually in factories, the greatest amount of energy consumption happens because of motors. So today, almost 2,500 motors have been changed, and there will be more that will be changed in future. We would not have been able to do this 10 years ago because the solutions were not available, but they are available now. And it makes sense both from the perspective of business and from the perspective of society and the planet to adopt these new energy efficient, planet-friendly solutions that are available. As a result of these actions and adoption of renewable energy, the energy required to produce one vehicle in a Mahindra factory is half that of what we used to use about 4 or 5 years ago. So this is one step forward towards achieving carbon neutrality. Along with that, you have heard extensively about issues related to water. I don't know if you know that today, India is a water-stressed nation by the definitions of the world UN organizations. Now, if we are a water-stressed organization, which is becoming more and more urban, as Mishra ji told you, the stress on water is going to keep on increasing. The good news is that precipitation levels overall have not gone down, though the number of days on which we get rain are fewer and the number of days on which get heavier rain are more. This actually makes it more difficult to harness water naturally, and therefore efforts must be made. You see on the left a picture of the kind of work which Rajendra Singh ji has done extensively in Rajasthan and in other places. But these are the kinds of work across the country which have very high impact on ensuring that water is available for agriculture and for the use of people. Micro irrigation is a technology which is critical to bring in water productivity of agriculture, because it saves 30 to 40% of water for agriculture, which incidentally consumes about 80% of all the fresh water that we use. As a result of these community initiatives and water productivity actions taken within factories of Mahindra, there are factories today that do not take water from municipal corporations or tankers upwards of 200 days in the year. Our hope is we will be able to make all our factories water secure and try and take as many factories off the water grid as possible. You heard conversations on how landfills are expanding in the country, and they will continue to expand as urbanization increases, as you and I use disposable materials of various kinds, and we don't exactly keep our urban spaces clean. And all of this ends up in landfills. Many of them end up in water bodies. You may have heard of the Great Pacific Plastic Patch. Now, if we have to reverse all this pollution, we've got to figure out a way of first renaming what we call waste. So within the Mahindra group, scrap yards are now being called value yards. And the conversation on waste is we're looking at waste as a resource and not as something to throw away. As a result of which, the actions taken have led to 20 Mahindra locations being certified as zero waste to landfill. Nothing goes to landfill from these locations. And the goal is to make 95 of our significant locations, all our significant locations, which is about 95, become certified as zero waste to landfill. To do this, extensive work needs to be done to convert what was earlier waste into usable materials. And one example is here in front of you, that of converting paint sludge to casting primer and not just sending it off to landfill as per the rules of the CPCB. What you see on the right is a bag which is made from waste, a school bag. Today it is made only for poor children. This bag also has a folding table inside it, and this is used in village schools where children don't have tables to study on. So it's a combination of a bag, a table, and a water bottle. And there is no reason why this cannot become mainstream in the country with or without the table, because our children go to schools where there are wonderful tables, but they could use this bag, which is made from waste. We have a company in the south which manages water utilities and waste in Tirupur. They are now ensured that all the STP materials are now converted to fertilizer and treated water. So nothing, absolutely nothing goes to landfill or into water bodies anymore. It's a small unit, but there is no reason why this cannot spread right across the country. And if we were to convert sewage into fertilizer across the country, the savings we will make from imported fertilizer is in tens and thousands of crores, tens of thousands of crores. And surely there is value in creating value from what we completely disregard as being useful today. The organization is also has a program called Mahindra Haryali, and it started when we kind of recognized that deforestation was a problem in the country. Today we realize that these trees will play a very big part in sequestering carbon and helping take carbon dioxide out of the air, which is crucial for planetary survival and our comfortable living on the planet. The project today has 17 million trees, and the run rate is about 1 million trees per year. But doing all this alone is not enough. One has to take our suppliers along. So whatever programs I've mentioned to you are being implemented by our suppliers, some in very large number and some in smaller numbers. But the goal is to get them onto the same journey so that they are also able to get the benefits that we are able to get in Mahindra as a larger organization. These were all examples of greening the organization. Here are some new green businesses for the future presented in front of you. These are ones in which we in Mahindra have an investment. These are by no means the only green businesses of the future. but we will need many more such green businesses. So what you see here on the chart is cloud computing, which saves loads of emissions. There's renewable energy in the form of solar. There is also, of course, wind, green buildings, electric vehicles, responsible recycling of vehicles. You know, we have a lot of high emission vehicles. There is a conversation on bringing in a scrappage policy. If we want to reduce emissions in urban areas, what we do with new vehicles is important, but getting old high emission vehicles off the road is even more important. So I'm hoping we'll move in the right direction. So Mahindra is working with the government, has set up businesses so that these vehicles which need to be scrapped, again, don't end up in the rivers and nalas and various other places, but are responsibly recycled and material is recovered for reuse. You also see the picture of micro irrigation, and Mahindra Waste to Energy is a company that converts food waste into energy. About 60% of every landfill that we've talked about earlier is actually pure energy in the form of food waste, and it should not be there at all. Of course, another 24% is completely recyclable, and that should not be there at all. So Mr. Mishra's goal of reducing landfills in the country, 84% of it we can create value from, and I hope we do achieve these goals as quickly as possible. You put all of this together, you get the new idea of sustainable business, where all the old ideas continue to be relevant, but there are newer things to do, which we talked about in the course of this presentation, and you have here on the chart in front of you. So it's not as if we don't need a vision and purpose. It's not as if financial solvency no longer is important. It's not as if we must not look at investors. We must do all of that, differentiation, strategic marketing, all of it. But we must figure out low carbon, no carbon solutions. We must look at health and equity. We must work with the supply chain. We must adopt energy efficiency, renewable energy at scale, and go from take, make, use, dispose to circular economy and green labels. There are huge benefits to be gained for the corporation. There are plenty of financial variables. If you look at organizations that are coming out stronger from this COVID disruption, you will find many of them were very strong on ESG practices. In fact, those who are strong on ESG practices have all done well, and that's what investors also say in other conversations that I participate in. And not only does it give you much greater financial strength, it gets you better access to resources because youngsters love to work in companies like this. Society gives you a greater license to operate. Investors are happy to give you funds, and consumers, as they develop more and more interest in saving the planet, are happy to work with products of these companies. This is what makes organizations, or will make organizations, more resilient in the future that we are going to face in the next 30 or 40 years. And we should expect to see the new idea of sustainable business being practiced by more and more organizations, because it will then lead us to rise for good. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. It has been a very thrilling presentation and very inspiring, particularly for the future generation. We heard them earlier in this webinar that some of the youngsters are already taking to a full-time career, leaving aside the lucrative jobs when they come out of the institute, pursuing in the IT sectors and various other job-oriented sectors, but they have really stepped up and taking on to the environment as their career. And I'm sure that after listening to you, they are going to be all the more inspired, and there are going to be more such entrepreneurs in the future that from our institute they are going to take after listening to Mishra ji with regards to pan-India impact on the urbanization, more from a technical, almost reaching to the very highest level of urbanization in the modern ways. And Anirban, I congratulate you and the Mahindra Group for having taken the complete gamut of the environment. Particularly, we know that there was so much green behind the businesses of Mahindra that has been taken on. It's been a very, very inspiring presentation. I wonder if the paucity of time, are there any questions from the audience that I can put across to the panel? I'm not seen one. Meanwhile, I'll have a very quick question to Mishra ji. Sir, sometime back you headed the India-Japan roundtable, where your ministry was instrumental in collaborating with the Japanese companies to bring the technologies. Can you quickly share us some of what kind of technologies are coming on to India in the urbanization area? Sir, you're on mute.
Sorry, my mic was muted. Okay. Is it okay now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Ramurthy. In fact, last week only I had a joint working group meeting with the government of Japan, and we have such arrangement with many other countries. And we are open to the technologies, to the innovations, to the new ways of doing things, so that what Mr. Anirban mentioned, to improve the sustainability, to bring value to things, so that we make best use of the resources which is available. That is the government in the last 5-6 years. Whatever steps we are taking, these are our major defining parameters. How to get the technology which is not there in the country, how to get those things become part of our Indian technology. As I mentioned to you about the lighthouse projects, there we are getting the best construction technologies, and those technologies will become part of the curriculum of IITs or NITs or other engineering colleges, and they become part of us. So in anything with the Japanese government, specifically we discussed about the metro projects, because they have been instrumental in helping. I mean, today you see the metro journey which is started in Delhi in a small way in 2002. Just in 18 years, we have got a huge gains on the metro technology. I mean, now a lot of things are make in India. We are exporting some of the things from India, and we have added more than 700 kilometers of the operational tracks. We have more than 1,000 kilometers under construction and all that. We have also discussed with them to get on the housing and the housing technology. I mean, this is how we can. I mean, what we are doing right now, constructing more than crore of houses. But the way urbanization is going on, there is going to be a lot of more construction work in the time to come. So we want to acquire ideas from there. We want to acquire from them on the water and the sanitation. Water and sanitation, the work which they have done, or many other countries like some of the Scandinavian countries, the Germany. I mean, from them we are learning those things. So it's a continuous learning. We invite their industry to come and work here, to encourage them to invest and do something from where we can acquire that knowledge and make that knowledge our own. The circular economy, which Mr. Anirban mentioned, we had I mean, a lot of discussion on the circular economy, because circular economy is something which is a part of the nature. In nature, there is no waste. Let it be very clear. I mean, like whatever nature, everything is circular. I mean, anything which is produced that gets consumed, the next one which consumes that I mean produces is like a circular. We have learned about so many circular things while we were studying. So like that, whatever experiments which have been done, whatever experiences has come to the other countries, we are trying to learn and get that done in our country to address the huge, humongous issue where we have to address the issues of nearly 40 crore people at now, and which is going to be projected to another 40 crore plus in the next 3 decades. Thank you.
Excellent. Very inciting, Dr. Durga Shankar ji.
Shankar?
Yeah, please. Anil Kumar ji.
This is Professor Agrawal from IIT BHU.
Yes, sir.
The question is for, not question, it's a query from Mishra ji. There's a person, Professor Raghav Verma at IIT Mumbai. He's basically a nuclear scientist, and he had wonderful idea to use nuclear technology for treating effluent and sewage as well. So he wanted to, maybe the Japanese partner also he could bring in. And I heard that maybe he's struggling at MOUD. Any idea, Dr. Mishra ji?
Well, I have not heard Dr. Agrawal about Professor Raghav Verma. Can you kindly share his coordinates with me? I mean, you can give it to Mr. Ramurthy, and I get the coordinates. I'll speak to him right away and try to see what can be done.
Definitely.
Yes.
Sure.
Definitely. I'll pass on it.
Mishra ji. Session by Professor Verma in the evening session, and I'll definitely connect Mishra ji with you because he's collaborating with the Japanese companies. It's been a very inspiring session, and Anirban, particularly, I want with you, although you are not from our alumni, but you have a very close ties with Banaras. You are born in Banaras, and I think many of your family members have been graduated from the great institutes in university. So I just want one quick message from you, because there are a lot of budding engineers just come out of the institute, or also likely to come out. With regards to, especially if they are in the corporates like you, a quick message or inspirational message on strategies to define market leadership or consumer insighting, competitive intelligence, or budding and sustaining brand, so that they look up at a corporate in a more career-oriented way.
Shankar, you had a session on startups just before this. The opportunities that exist in new solutions for the future are very high. We talked about circular economy. There are many materials that need to be processed differently so that they become useful. Each one of them presents a business opportunity. I remember about 40 years ago, some friends of mine who were clearly ahead of their time tried to make fly ash bricks. They couldn't even source fly ash. It wasn't given to them. Today, fly ash bricks have become very common in green buildings. And there are so many more materials that are required to make green buildings, greener materials. As Mishra ji was mentioning, there is a lot of construction to be done. Let me put a number to it. Studies show that 70% of the buildings that we will need in 2050 in India are not built yet. And if these buildings are not green, we are actually going to put a huge burden of emissions on the earth. So some of us have a dream that everything we build in our country in future will be green. I know there is a little sustainability section that has gone into in the bylaws of the building code, but we will need much more. And all of this will present business opportunities, startup opportunities for people coming out of our best technical institutes to not only make a life for themselves, but make a big difference in the life of others and make life of the planet a whole lot better.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Anirban. I think
Mr. Ramamurthy, can I come in with a comment or a question? My name is Deepak Pava.
A quick question, sir. Yes.
Okay, a quick comment and a question. First, to Mr. Ghosh, I think I laud your recommendation for green buildings. We just inaugurated our first green building in the country, a factory green building, which is platinum rated. There's no other factory building in the country platinum rated. So I'd like to share that with you. I believe in environment. A company stands for environmental control. But the more important thing I want to share with the panelists is that they are covering many subjects, but apparently there is not going to be enough coverage on clean air. And clean air is a very important part of an environment, as all of you know today. And I think we have to emulate China. In 10 years, what they have done in Clean Air Management and Clean Air Act has been tremendous. And we seem to be only focusing on particle 2.5 and emissions from power plants. But there's a very important area of VOC emissions, which seem to have been totally ignored in our entire environment mission or our policy. And I would like you to make sure that some of us understand the importance of it. That's all. Just a comment and nothing more. No questions.
Mr. Pawar, first, congratulations for leading the cause and having a platinum rated factory. I hope you inspire many more people. Clean air is a subject by itself. There are many cities in the world who have actually converted their cities from having terribly polluted air to clean air. The simple things that they did was to get rid of refineries near their cities. You know that Bombay has one. And also to get rid of thermal power stations near their cities. These were the two things that are common across examples. There may be more, and I'm sure Mishraji will know more about this subject than I do. Going forward, we will also need electric vehicles. You know that die has been cast, that vehicles will be electric. It's inevitable. It's just a matter of time. However, there are two things which we haven't yet been able to tackle in the country. How do we make construction dust zero? Because every pie chart I see on air pollution, the biggest pie is construction dust. And the second one, is about pollution from burning biomass, whether it is crop residue or whether it is biomass burning for fuel, or even, I don't know, biomass burning on many other happy occasions of the country. So those are two areas where I don't know if we've taken any action or are making progress. Perhaps Mishraji will know more about this.
Thank you, Mr. Anirban. Let me inform Mr. Pawar that the country launched National Clean Air Program last year, and I'm very confident because I'm part of the discussion, part of the group which is being led by the Minister of Environment and Forest, that not 10 years, much earlier than that, we will have a far better results in the country on the clean air. All that which was being mentioned by Anirban and many other things the steps are being taken for making our cities clean. So that's a concern of the government. And let me also tell you about this construction business. You may be aware that the new parliament building is coming up. Yesterday I was reviewing and I was informed by, happy to share with you, informed by the Tata project that we are measuring the air pollution there inside the place where the construction building is going on and outside also. And I was pleasantly informed that the air quality is better inside the place where the construction is going on than the outside. That is the measures which have been taken. Someday we will also demonstrate the kind of measures which we have taken proactively to ensure that Delhi, which is quite polluted, there inside that premises of the construction of the new parliament building, we will provide much cleaner air. So this is possible, and it is possible using the new technologies. And the technologies, as Anirban said, that the technologies are available. We only have to adopt it. And the beauty of this country is we can adopt at such a large scale, then the cost can go down. Things are moving positive in this direction. Thank you.
Absolutely, Mishraji.
Good to know.
Very, it has been a very exhilarating experience in this panel of discussion. Unfortunately, due to paucity of time, I have to reluctantly bring it to
there. Ramurthy Saab, I also have one connection with BHU IIT. Whether you know it or don't know. I spent 1 year in the year 77 to 78 before moving to IIT Kanpur in BHU IIT. I was part of Limdi hostel.
Yeah, we all know that, sir. Yes. We also spoke about it when we talked. So it's, of course, it's a family of BHU, which is which is all the more inspiring. So as I mentioned, reluctantly, I have to bring this session to closing because of the time that we have to get ahead with our rest of the program. It's been so inspiring.
Sir, one thing, please. Sir, please. This for Dr. Durga Shankar Mishraji. He spoke about this rural housing and the big housing initiative of Lighthouse, and he spoke about the fly ash bricks and various things. Just a small comment on that. The fly ash bricks, the economy and viability is very much dependent on the economic cost of transport of fly ash, dry fly ash. And these days, the dry fly ash from the power plants are mostly taken up by the cement companies and the ready-mix concrete at the viable distances. And wherever the viable distances are not there, like interior powerhouses like of Rihan, Vindhyachal, and Singrauli, all the dry fly ash of the very, very high quality is lying up there. Similarly, so many other interior projects where the cost of transportation is a very, very big issue. The 2016, there was another notification where the cost of transportation is to be shared by the power plants in case of road building. But in case of brick making manufacturing company, the cost of transportation is not given up in that for sharing. So cost of transportation is very, very important issue. If something can be done to make available the viable means of transport of dry fly ash to the brick making company, it will be a very big boon for the availability of the fly ash bricks in the near the construction sites. That's my
Absolutely.
submission.
Thank
Thank you,
you,
sir. I'm
Khariji.
Rakesh Kumar. I'm Rakesh Kumar. I was head of fly ash business in
Okay.
NTPC.
Thank you
Thank
very
you, sir.
much, Rakesh ji. Point is taken. The subject is so vast that we can keep on talking, but there is a constraint of time. So I would like to rest this panel discussions with the one remark that yes, we heard Rajender Singh ji, we heard Mishra ji, and we also heard Anirban. As they say, small is beautiful, big is effective. We heard Rajender Singh ji on a small rural individual level of work that has been done. We heard Mishra ji at the big effective way of really implementing on the pan India city level, and we heard Anirban integrating the both at a business level, how the sustainability of environment is protected. So I thank you, gentlemen, for all your precious time for on a Sunday to spare with us and then share your vision and thoughts for the future of environment. It has been a pleasure to me as well as all my colleagues and alumni and organizers. And I conclude this panel of discussions and I will hand it over to Kirti. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shankar. We're now moving ahead to our next event. I now invite Vaibhav Jain, third year biochem student, to introduce Student Alumni Interface Cell and also play the video. Over to you, Vaibhav.
Thank you, Kirti. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Vaibhav Jain, a member of the core team of the Student Alumni Interaction Cell, IIT BHU. So, the Student Alumni Interaction Cell, or more commonly as we know it as SAIC, it's an institute body operated by the students of IIT BHU Varanasi under the guidance of the Dean of Resource and Alumni. The cell's objective: connect, engage, celebrate. The SAIC works in improving relations threefold: student alumni, institute alumni, and alumni alumni. Since its inception in 2015, SAIC has been continuously growing. The cell has been working for the students, the institute, as well as the alumni. Over the 4-year history, SAIC has organized various reunions, knitting together the fabric of IIT BHU fraternity. It has created various platforms that facilitate students' interaction with alumni, providing them opportunities to learn, grow, and connect. So here is a short teaser video we have created to let you know more about what we do at SAIC. I'll just present it. Thank you so much. We look forward to connect with you all and move ahead in the task of connecting the IIT BHU family. Thank you. Over to you, Kirti.
Hey, thanks, Vaibhav. So it's time for us to have a quick, fun quiz break. I now invite Pranav, 2020 IIT BHM alumnus, our in-house quiz master, to conduct the quiz. Over to you, Pranav.
Thanks a lot, Kirti. All right, guys. So I will be sharing my screen. Vaibhav will be sharing his screen, and you will see a QR code, scanning which you will get to the quiz link. Also, I'll just share the quiz link on the chats. Please request everyone to check it out and attend the quiz. Uh, this quiz has quite a few questions derived from the best questions from the project drawdown. It's a very interesting project and would recommend everybody to check it out later. And of course, to every question, when you submit the quiz, you will find a lot of feedback to each and every question that is present in section 1. Please go through it. I'm sure you will find it very insightful. Uh, can everybody see the link in the chat box? Or can
Yeah,
everybody see the...
Pranav, we can see the link. I think it has been sent to all panelists. Maybe try to
Yes,
send
yes.
this to
Oh,
panelists and
all right.
attendees. Yeah.
Just a second. Thanks for the correction. Here, I have shared it again. And thank you, Weber, for sharing the screen. Can anybody check if it's being accessible by all? Kirti?
Hey, let me check that,
Kirti, ma'am?
Pranav. Yeah,
Yeah,
just
thanks.
give me a second.
Right, Debashish sir has just replied to it. I think everybody can access it.
Yeah, I'm able to access it.
All right, all the best. I hope everybody does enjoy the questions. I'm pretty sure that these questions are designed such that they really make you think about what we perceive as, doing something for the climate change and environment. And of course, the feedback at the end would definitely add to your knowledge and insights.
Pranav, what is the time limit for the quiz?
About 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay, maybe we can give 5 minutes and see.
Yeah, sure. I can already see a few of the responses that have been recorded.
Yeah, we'll close this by 12:32.
Yeah, sure,
Yeah.
definitely.
Pranav, can you read out some of the questions that might be interesting, while people are going through quickly? Pranav, can you read out the questions?
Hey, Pranav, you're there? This is here but not responding.
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah, Pranav, can you read out the questions also? That might be interesting.
Sure, sir. Just let me try it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but please do not post your answers in the chat box.
Yeah.
So what kind of questions are these, Pranav? Are these more, like fun on environment ones or on, serious issues of environment, or how are they structured?
Basic questions on environment.
Yes, am I audible?
Yeah,
One
yeah, you are.
second.
Yeah.
Right. So yes, they are on environment. One good thing about the questions is that there's this project known as one second. There's some issue on my side.
Hey, I think it's already 12:32. We'll just
Yeah,
give
I
them
think we
one.
can move
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
I think, Kirti, we can move on. If Dr. Rakesh Kumar has joined, then we can get his session started now.
Sure. I'll
Yeah.
just close up the quiz then.
Yeah. Thank you,
In
Pranav.
short,
Yeah. Thank you, Pranav.
yeah,
Really good quiz.
just a short thing. This is known as Project Drawdown, which
Yeah.
is a project which lists down all the different methods of saving and conserving the environment. They are ranked on Project Drawdown based on their effectiveness.
Excellent, excellent.
Yes, it does form a very insightful thing to view, and it's very creative in the way that it shows up some of the solutions which we don't really think would be very impactful, like voting for a good government, or empowering women. So it's a very interesting read, and would recommend everybody to go through it.
Okay, thank you.
Oh,
Right,
sure.
thank you.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Pranav. So we'll move on to our next event, Future Note, where subject matter expert highlights the technologies relevant to meet the challenges. I now invite Mr. Shankar Ramurthy to introduce our Future Note speaker. Over to you.
Can you just check, Kirti, that Dr. Rakesh Kumar has joined?
Yeah, I got a confirmation offline that he joined
Yeah.
from
Yeah, he has
Shankar.
joined. Yeah.
Dr. Rakesh is there.
Yeah.
We move on. I'd like to take few minutes to introduce Dr. Rakesh Kumar, Director NEERI. NEERI is National Environment Engineering Research Institute. In the earlier discussions, we heard about what the environmentalists who have been passionate about impacting on the rural side, on the urban side, and in the corporate side. There's a lot of work goes behind this because eventually technologies have to be invented and commercialized. That is where the organizations like NEERI come in, where we always are more creative in what next in the technology and how the new technologies are improved, and particularly with respect to the Indian horizon. Dr. Rakesh Kumar has human work at NEERI as heading the organization in developing several technologies, and he has got a PhD in environment, and he has spearheaded to bridge a gap between the laboratory studies scaling up, leading to the science being used in the industry. Yes, himself is a recipient of several awards, Commonwealth Common Award, himself an Environment Leadership Award by the US Asia Environment Partnership. He has been a champion of technology transfer of low-cost wastewater treatment technologies to commercialization. So I invite Dr. Rakesh Kumar to this forum. Welcome, Dr. Rakesh Kumar.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, Dr. Ramamurthy, and I see a lot of heavyweights and well-known people in this list, and I was glad to see Professor Dhar and Professor Pava, and the name just goes on. So thank you very much, and actually सब लोगों को आप लोगों को बहुत सारा प्रणाम हमारी तरफ से। IIT BHU का ये जो organization है इसमें, although I'm not directly connected with IIT BHU, but IIT community and my link with IIT Bombay, where I passed out from, and I have a lot of friends, professors who work with us. So it's a really pleasant thing to do today to be part of this exercise. And I'll try to share a small presentation which was asked of me, and I hope that will make sense to all of you, which is on wastewater and what do we do in this country. So just give me a minute. I'll try to bring my presentation.
Yes, doctor. Go ahead. We are able to see your screen.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, we are able to see your screen. Please go ahead.
So when we talk about wastewater treatment, this is something which started for NEERI as well. Many of you who do not know, NEERI was earlier known as Central Public Health Engineering Research Institute, way back in 1958, when water and sanitation was one of the major issues. Of course, the way our population went on increasing, we added a lot of other stuff, and NEERI now is Environmental Engineering Research Institute. So issue before us, when we talk about any wastewater, those of you who work in this domain would know, but any wastewater which we generate from the domestic sources actually is nothing but 98 or 98.5% water. Rest is 1.5%, some kind of contaminants which we need to take off. And if we do that, I tell you some of our water related issues that we have in our country can possibly be solved. And in my own opinion, many times we hear this statement that we should do more of rainwater harvesting. Of course, we should do rainwater harvesting, but I would say let's do Nala wastewater harvesting, because our drains in the country are more perennial than many of our rivers. And all of these drains continuously flow 365 days, 24/7. And if you count that number for just class 1, class 2 city, it is more than 70,000 million liters per day. So when you're looking at all of these things together, we have to look at our sewerage system all over again compared to what we were thinking in the olden days. I don't need to go into this detail. This got discussed by Mishra ji and some of our colleagues earlier. It was very interesting discussion which happened. Dr. Rajendra Singh also, who was there, and we worked very closely with him to do water literacy related issues. And I'm glad that all of these people were there today to discuss. So when we look at wastewater types, I'll go into a little bit of nitty-gritty. There are definitions now, and unless until we define our problems, we will not be able to solve it. So when we look at our wastewater types, you will find that there is something called fresh water, which we say ground and surface. Gray water is what we call, which comes from bathing, cloth washing, and in some cases even kitchen, which is not being used for cooking. And the black water is what we use for toilet and urinals. So depending upon from where this water is coming, there is a possibility of reusing it in an effective manner. And therefore the technology will change, or technology can become relevant depending upon where we want to do what kind of intervention. So if I can just do this, the basic exercise of new sanitation concept will be that how do I segregate wastewater from the place where we use? Not when we have mixed everything and then we try to do it, which is a conventional means of doing it. We take it to our sewer lines, and then it gets pumped multiple times, and then it goes to a sewage treatment plant. Most of the current projects and activity which is happening in our country are actually of that kind, where we In cities like Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, sewage actually flows for more than 30 to 40 kilometers. And then it goes to a sewage treatment plant. And by the time it reaches, it's very septic and also not easily amenable for treatment. And the challenge continues over a period of time. So what is important is that any new houses that we build or the current houses that we have, we design it for collection and segregation. The moment I do it, the chances are that I can actually do a good job of treatment and reuse. So just to give you a glimpse of it, when you look at overall average domestic water consumption in Indian cities, it's about 135 liters. There are some lucky people who get 200 to 50 liters. But of these, if you see this box here, it is almost like 85 to 90 liters actually comes here. And that's a major domain and major part of water which can actually be used for recycling purposes. So depending upon what we have, we could start doing something about black water as well. Gray water, as I said earlier, can be much more easily treated. There are concepts of doing black water treatment as well, which is important and that we need to do. And as we move forward, we need to look at how our standards are actually laid out in our country. So if I say I want to use wastewater, which is coming from so and so sources, the standard applicable becomes what we want to do. So if I want to do it for irrigation, there is a different criteria. It's for commercial purposes, for construction purposes, toilet and urinal flushing, fire protection, and drinking water. The drinking water is very interesting because many people do talk about an example of Singapore, which gives you a bottled water is called New Water. And many of you who would know that in that drinking water, 15% of water is sourced from sewage after treatment. So it primarily it means that there is 85% which is clean virgin water, and 15% comes from treatment of sewage and then is mixed. But to tell you very frankly, the people who live, and no offense here, those who live in Mathura and Agra are actually doing the reverse of it. So 85% of the water which comes for drinking purposes in their household is actually coming from sewage treatment plants or sewage which is flowing in the river. And the reason is, which you will see, many of us who have seen it, that the treatment scheme shows first part as sewage treatment, and after that it goes into water treatment plant. So it's important. In India, we have been doing a great job of treating and supplying, but can we do it for each of these sources and do it smartly so that all of these are met? Unfortunately, we do not have standard for all of these. So we need to work towards the standard, and our institute and some of other colleagues in research institutions are now working with pollution control boards that you must notify depending upon use what kind of standard that is required. Many countries are already doing it for grey water, and there are norms for it. We are still saying based on some parameters that we should be doing following, but it's not well defined. Industry, we all know it. This is done in a very smart way for industry because they understand the value of water, because they pay almost 30 times more when they source water from urban local bodies or sometimes some other sources. So they have to become more and more bigger leaders in terms of saying how to use wastewater as we go ahead. The thing that I wanted to talk to all of you today was something different besides what we need to do in wastewater domain as a philosophical issue. NEERI did some very interesting work in the last 5-7 years in which we looked at how nature can be used for doing treatment of wastewater. So the first one is hydrate, which I'll talk about in 2 minutes. Then we also looked at our issues of treating drained water. As we know, most of our cities, I'm talking about even bigger cities and metro cities, we still do not collect 100% of wastewater. So if you take city of Mumbai, it collects only about 55% of wastewater which it generates. Rest of it goes into drains. Delhi collects probably much higher percent, but some of the numbers are not very well known, but it still is about 50%. If you go to Bangalore, it again picks up about 40%. So when we talk about 40 to 60%, and in some cities it could be even 70%, wastewater flowing into our drains, till government has that kind of money that it will be able to pick it up, bring it through a sewer system to a centralized sewage treatment plant and treat it. Can we do in situ treatment in the drain itself, right? And the third one, which is something to do with lake cleanup, which I'll talk about, and can we do river rejuvenation using phytorite technology? So what it actually does, many of you who know wastewater treatment is easy to understand, but those who don't, is also still very easy. So what it actually does, phyto actually means plants, and rid meaning getting rid of pollutants. So we use a conventional method of filter media and plants together. And if you see the schematic at the bottom, what it actually does is that we get wastewater, which comes in any sedimentation tank, and almost an improved version of septic tank is built so that all solids are taken care of in the first part. And after that, it goes through a gravel media, which has no soil, no sand, nothing. And on the top, we grow certain kind of plants. These are called wetland plants, which take effectively all the organic matter and some nutrients to grow themselves and then consume it. So while it passes through, it gives you a water which is as good as any conventional sewage treatment plant. So just to give you a little bit of more claims that in the different layers of these gravel beds, different kind of biochemical oxidation processes take place in the first set of domain, and the later part of the same tank, it also takes nitrogen and phosphorus. By the way, the nutrient which is we call it nutrient, which sounds good that we should have higher nutrient in anything, but in wastewater, finally when it gets treated, we should not have too many nutrients, because if we have, our lakes will have this algal bloom and it will create problem. So when we look at this constructed wetland processes, almost everything happens which happens in a conventional sewage treatment plant. What is important here is that how do we engineer it? It's a biological process. It's a process which botany people understand better, but it also requires a lot of engineering to be done. And using these engineering, we have been able to get a process by which we can actually remove all of them. So right now it's being, it can be applied to municipal and domestic wastewater, commercial, as I said, for grey water, agriculture runoffs, stormwater runoffs. Most of the work on constructed wetlands were actually done way back, I would say a couple of decades back, for agriculture runoffs and stormwater runoff. We have been able to do it for municipal and domestic wastewater, almost at the same footprint as any sewage treatment plant would have, which is not possible in any other places. So this is just a summary of the whole thing. So we have screen chamber, we have sedimentation, we have a phytorite bed, and then we have storage for its use as we go ahead. There's another one which we have been now doing it. So some places where I don't need to go into details, but what is important is that oil and grease sometimes can create a lot of problems. In olden time, we used to have every household or every society a separate oil and grease chamber. And if you remove that, almost 20-30% of our sewer systems which get choked and always keep suffering and overflow keeps happening can actually be addressed. So this is a very small system which can possibly, it was there earlier, but now there is smarter design which needs to be done and which will solve our all sewer line problem issues. These are some sectional things. We have settling and aerobic buffers, and then it goes ahead. So I'll not go into detail. I have already explained that to you. But what is important here is that when we look at operation maintenance, this is one of the simplest of maintenance. So any gardener who maintains a garden can possibly run this whole system. And that's where the importance of nature-based technology comes in and solves the real life problem. These are some comparison of standards. These standards have recently again changed because of NGT interventions. But depending upon which standard that we are looking at and which parameters for reuse that we want to plan, we can redefine some of these standards and go ahead. I would like to now give you an example of how do we use a combination of phytorad and in situ treatment. So if I have a nala which is flowing like this, as you see here, I can create a barrier and then make them flow through a gravel bed planted system. And as it flows, it gets actually treated, and then it goes back into the drain again. So over a distance of 500 meters, 1 kilometer, the drains will start getting clean itself. And in this, we also put in some places floating systems. Those floating plants actually have designed in a way that it doesn't sink as it grows, and also it has roots which is hanging below, and all the biological processes are taking place while the water flows below it. The same concept with a little bit of I would say variation is now being used in 3 or 4 lakes, 4 lakes now, few lakes in Thane, lakes in Telibandha in Raipur. There is another lake in Nagpur that we have done, and the 4th one is under implementation. What we do is lakes normally have a process by which nutrients get accumulated, and you must have seen many lakes have this green and blue color algae which starts growing. Is nothing but higher levels of nitrogen and phosphorus. So we do a floating plant bed system which has got an aeration below, and it effectively takes phosphorus, which is the limiting parameters which leads to all this algal growth. And over a period of time, the lakes can remain clean. This is a proposal which we have been talking about for smaller rivers. It cannot be done for rivers like Ganga, but if we can have some of the places where we have smaller rivers and mainly it is carrying sewage, we could divert it, create sedimentation, create primary units, and then create subsurface wetlands where it gets treated over a period of time. So retention time is anywhere between 24 hours to 48 hours. And once it gets treated, it gets into the system all over again. So some of the examples where it has been used, this is Mahindra plant, this is in Pune, Bharat Forge, and this is another location. I'm not able to figure that out. I'll just tell you that. So this is the kind of thing which has been done in Bedmutha Industries. So by the way, all of these wastewater treatment has been done on the domestic portion of it, and that's not industrial wastewater, but the one which is coming out of the canteen and coming out of the toilets and urinals. Similarly, the one which has been done recently to rejuvenate Sahadra Jheel, 3 million liters plant has been now built for this Delhi Municipal Corporation. Is operating now for 2 years. And because Sahadra Jheel, which used to have a lot of water, now it doesn't have, we are giving the sewage treated wastewater for reviving the lake, which has become dry in last 10 years. This is an example of Mahindra vehicles at Chakan, which treats almost all its wastewater, which is about 750 cubic meter per day. So in short, at the end, I just wanted to highlight that we need to start looking at any treatment methods, but yes, method which is cheaper, easier to maintain, and it has a good payback period. Second very important thing is that we must treat where we generate. If we make it flow, or if we make it travel a few 100 kilometers and then I treat it, to bring it back for my use is going to be a humongous task. So we must start looking at decentralized systems, and people should start adopting it and owning it. Only when we own, things will happen. We could re-look at nature-based technology. India is actually blessed with the right temperature, where all the nature-based technology in the Europe and US actually failed during winter times because of very, very low temperature. In our country, most part of India is warm enough to have nature-based technology, and the innovation that has been done by people like us can actually work wonders without any electricity, any mechanical system. It can also provide employment to local people because it can be built easily, and those who are trained, even for 2 days, they can actually maintain the whole sewage treatment plant. The current mechanical and very complicated sewage treatment plants, you don't find people who are actually well trained and want to do it. All those who are BTech and MTech would not want to go and run STP. So we need to depend on people who can actually do this. And finally, when I say that for wastewater or water, we cannot segregate them. This is actually nothing but water. And in that, technical community has to work with society to actually address this problem. Unless until we communicate that part of it, there are chances that we will not succeed. So I stop here. I can actually take questions if there are many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Rakesh. That was an excellent presentation, particularly knowing that the phytoride type of treatment, which is more ecology friendly and non-consuming of chemicals and electricity, is something very heartening. And I wish that in the future we see more of that spreading across India, especially where there is a possibility of reducing the pollution by way of natural processes that you have developed. Doctor, I want to ask one question with your premier institute where you are developing the technologies and experiments, and then you are piloting it and then scheduling it commercially. Our institute, IIT BHU, being a premier institute, how do you think there can be a collaboration with NIRI and BHU at an institute level where the ideas and the academics can also be transferred directly onto your laboratories and the scientists, so that there's a collaboration at the academic level as well as at your institute level?
So we are actually very open. I can't say possibly that it was always there, but in last 3-4 years, we have had MOUs with more than 100 institutions, and most of them are academic institutions. So wherever we want to do piloting, and I would like to actually share this thought with all the startups and the younger ones who are here. In India, people just do not respect knowledge. And pardon me for saying this. Knowledge is not given value. Only when with the knowledge you have produced something, a product which you can demonstrate and showcase, then only people believe you. So the normal knowledge processes in India takes time. If I can modify my sentence a little bit better. So wherever we have seen the technology which was actually not given any importance, only when we demonstrated at one place, 2 place, 5 places, we also had a lot of learning. And all of these learning involved students and some of the startups who actually work with us. So our new drain technology is piloted by an IIT Bombay alumnus who is a startup company, just 5-6 years old, and they are doing it across India. So I would say that we are most welcome, and we would be very happy and glad to partner with IIT BHU. Sure.
Dr. Rakesh, I have a request for you.
Yes.
Yes, Dr. Rakesh, could you share your presentation with us through AIBA? I'd like to very much read through that again.
Yeah,
yes,
I'll share with you a bigger and more detailed presentation. Surely, I'll do that.
I've been to NIRI several times, and I'm a great fan of NIRI and the work that you people are doing. Commendable work. I've been in personal contact since the days of Dr. Devata, who was part of your award-winning team, the Nobel team.
Yes.
So you're doing great work. Congratulations, and keep doing that.
Thank you. We'll share this presentation. Anyone could have it later. Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pawar. One big question, Dr. Rakesh. What's up in the board? Basically, what's the future, particularly in the wake of the COVID pandemic? How the research and development in the new technologies are getting oriented to make in the light of the present pandemic? How are there any directions? Is any possibility of COVID virus showing up in the wastewater, or what's your thoughts on that direction?
So there is a massive exercise that's going on right now. We are sampling and mapping 12 cities with regard to sewage, containing viruses. So that's being done with CCMB, NIRI, IMTech, Chandigarh. So this 3 institutions of CSR are working together. There are instances where we can assess that how many people may be infected based on the signature that you find in the sewage. But one should not be scared. The RNA, that's what coronavirus COVID-19 is. It does not survive in a way that it can infect anyone in the sewage. As of now, it appears that way. So, but it is important that if we do a surveillance very well, without probably doing massive checking and the testing that we are doing now, we can probably predict which area of the city is having more prevalence using the sewage samples. That's possible.
Okay. That's great, Dr. Rakesh. It's been a very informative and revealing session that we had with regards to the new technologies and what has already been developed and implemented. And very heartening to know that you're already working on several institutes in encouraging the academics also to share their thoughts with your R&D efforts to bring in more and more new technologies. Unless there are any other question, I would like to thank Dr. Rakesh for his valuable insights.
Shankar,
Yes,
could I say something?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
I just wanted to compliment Rakesh because I've been knowing them very well. This is one of the most serious practical laboratories of CSIR system, which is more applicable to the urban pollution and rural pollution. For the new startups, you are this Mr. Rajendra Singh's lecture and this lecture combined together, I think opens a lot of gates for our freshers. That's very essential. Provided, as Rakesh himself said, they may not get attracted. MTechs and the BTechs don't get attracted to this kind of thing. But I must compliment Rakesh for the practical part of it, the research they have been doing ever since they started. And that's why organization like Supreme Court is on their head every time. Ask if they needed to give the verdict on an issue. Thank you very much. Thank you.
They have even developed green firecrackers for Diwali. Do you know that?
Yes. Thank you, Professor Dhar. Professor Dhar has been, some of the people like you who have been, guiding us and, encouraging. That is what makes us survive. There has been pressure, and I would again say to some of the younger ones that the pressure today in our country has been very different. One pressure is that you must show up in terms of how much publication you have done, which is great. One should do it.
Yeah.
And the other pressure is how much money you make very quickly. So these two things can, sometimes put you down. But when we solve real life problem, that gives us much more, pleasure than probably publication. Publication, we must do it as academicians and researchers. But it should be a byproduct rather than the main product.
Seeing is believing. Seeing is believing.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you, Dr. Ram.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Rakesh. It's very inspiring to know that, yes, there are a lot of things on the environment. There's a huge door opening with regards to how the environment can be made more safer, particularly in the light of the present situation of the pandemics and whatever likely to come in the future. So we are all well guarded and feel very safe that, yes, there are institutes like yours who are able to help us with new technologies which is getting implemented and which will help us bring our lives safer. Thank you very much for your time, Dr. Rakesh, and sparing on a Sunday. And I now leave the mic back to Kirti to take on further. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shankar. This has been a great, informative session. I now invite Mr. Rajiv Gupta, 1993 year IIT BHU alumnus, current president of AIBA, for vote of thanks.
Thank you, Kirti. I think it has been a wonderful session. I must compliment all the speakers, Rajendra Singh ji, Anirban Ghosh, Durga Shankar ji, and Dr. Rakesh Kumar for a wonderful session that we have had. I think the journey of evolution of mankind is very, very interesting. We have been doing things that we feel are good for the humankind. and we have now ended up talking about sustainability and how to keep the very essence of humankind alive and how to survive. I was in a conference of Vion where we had all these great countries like France and Germany represented by their ambassadors, and they were all talking about sustainability and how we are at the verge of extinction if we don't really think about environment. And today I understand that there is about $20 trillion which is being spent on sustainability and UN's sustainability mission. So I think we are at the absolutely correct time talking about all of these things to our youngsters, because there is a lot that needs to be done, and there is a lot that needs to be done in terms of engineers taking up the challenge of environment and sustainability in the terms to go ahead. In fact, we have been talking today quite a bit on waste treatment, etc. But I think we are moving to a point where we are talking about how not to generate waste, how to create biodegradable materials, etc. So it's been a wonderful session in terms of first thinking about what to do, then how to do it, and how to do it practically on the ground. So we saw some of our trailblazers in Partha Jawar, Abhilasha Purwar, Vishal Kumar, and Dr. Sanjeev Malhotra, who then talked about how some of these things can actually be taken to the commercial world. Excellent sessions from all of them. And I must compliment the team. I think, I am becoming more and more redundant in the AIBA system, because the team is becoming so wonderfully good that I today have to ask for whom do I have to thank. In fact, I had to ask Sanjeev ji to tell me a list of people to whom I have to thank, because I have been away from the sort of the action. And we have the team led by Sanjeev Nikor and Gunasilan ji and Kanan Iyer, who have actually taken this to new heights. We have youngsters in Kirti, Yash, Ayush, Akshat Shah, Pranav Vyas, Vaibhav Jain, Bhavya Jain, etc., who have been doing a great job. Today's session was beautifully conducted by Shankar Ramamurthy and Vaibhav Dayal earlier, who's an absolute champion in putting all of this together. Then we have had Ishita Sharma, Bhavesh, Shrishti Bansal, Astha Sharma, Vaibhav Saxena, Jay Prakash, all of them putting the efforts. And all behind all of this, there are some very silent workers like Punit Bindlish, Dirghayu Kaushik, etc., who have been doing work at the back end to kind of combine all the elements and stakeholders together. It is very important that we do these sessions where we have our young students coming in, all faculty coming in, so that all of this can actually create that fire in the academic community and in the children to do new things. So thanks a ton, all of them. We have Professor A.K. Tripathi sitting there. We had Professor Anil Agarwal, I saw him there. And of course, Professor Dhar and Deepak Pawaji, who's been there. Thanks a ton for all of you being there to kind of support all these initiatives. I may have missed a few names, as I said, because I have been in the backdrop, but I am very, very happy to see that there is such a wonderful new team that is developing. We have Pramod Joshi ji, who handles our AIBA Council, through which we got across to so many people today. We have more than 3,000 registrations on this event. And I must remind everybody that we have technical sessions happening from 7 o'clock onwards, where we are actually having a plethora of global speakers who are there. I understand that we have Professor Raghav Verma from IIT Bombay, Dan Jivans from Shell UK, Alexander from Atmospheric Water Generation, Rob Sampson from Series, Dr. Preetam Singh, Madhukar Anand, etc. So, a huge set of technical sessions which are also in store. And, my compliments to everybody and thanks to everybody.
Thank you
That's
so
all
much.
from me.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rajiv. Thanks, everyone. We had an enlightening session on various environment topics today. Excited to see you today evening with Future Technologies, where we'll be presenting innovative technology solutions from experts, institutions, and organizations across the globe. Do not miss that out. Take care.
Have a good day.